backpedaling, running out of time, spinning away, and nobody open. Now he flips it up into traffic and makes a mistake. Trying to force the play, and it's intercepted. BJ Mays rumbling down inside the 10.
This is 365 Sports.
Bowling Green with no timeouts. Nick Singleton. Touchdown, Penn State.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Klubnik, undaunted, unafraid, complete, Turner, touchdown!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Why not?
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Jennings on the play fake, slides it upfield. Matthew Hickner off to the races. Hickner at the 30, full speed, and the big tight end goes 75. It's a Pony Express.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. A new week. 365 Sports, and a lot to get to from what happened over the weekend, what is happening this week, and even today when it comes to sports, college athletics, and also much more. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina. I'm David Smoak. We welcome you. We appreciate your time for the next 3 hours until 6 o'clock. Well, the Pac-12 has a new media deal. We discussed this with John Wilden, and we also had a couple of different stories on this. But CBS Sports and the Pac-12 extended their partnership, set to begin with the 2025 season, will now carry all the way into 2030, 2031. That is the new deal. And so they have their football championship game on CBS. Also Paramount, the men's basketball championship game will be on CBS and Paramount. There's all sorts of regular season games attached to this as well. And it's not everything yet. There's still more to go, but pretty good deal that they have a partner, which, of course, for a long time, it seemed like for about the last couple of years, you wondered if they had anybody.
Yeah, and this now will enable them to go find that 8th team that they need to retain their status. And, you know, like it says here that Texas State's the favorite, but those talks are ongoing, and they've got about a week or so to get it done before the exit fee goes up on Texas State and the Sun Belt. So, I mean, it's not as momentous as what happened the last few years, but we get a little realignment talk in late June and July with Texas State or potentially somebody else hopping over to the Pac-12.
Yeah, and realistic realignment talk because it's something that's based in facts and is going to happen. I mean, they have to find an 8th partner, so it's not one of those things that like, well, if this works a certain way, you could do this, or if this fell a certain way, you could do that. This is like, no, they have to do it. So, yeah, we're definitely getting some realignment talk officially here in the next couple of weeks, and we've already had some of that for the last few weeks. And you're right, Texas State appears to be the lead dog in the house as we expected and talked a little bit about last week, but we'll see if that gets finalized here in the coming days. I'd expected that it would, and if not, that would be a little bit of a curveball. That would be interesting to see what would happen if it's not Texas State. But as far as the TV deal goes, I mean, good for the Pac. We knew this was coming as well, and CBS is a solid partner, obviously, with a big vacancy post-SEC that they're trying to fill, already a previous relationship there with CBS, so it just made sense to go more in bed with them and to also, you know, still have some other things to be announced. We'll see what that all looks like. But I think, you know, you've got your streaming partner. I did sit there, though, as a college football fan and ask myself when I first saw this am I going to go get Paramount Plus just to watch Pac-12 games? I don't know that I am. I need to see the price on that, but I don't think so. It's not going to be all bundled in like all the other stuff that I would typically have, but we'll see how many people sign up for Paramount as a result of the Pac, and I know it's a big unanswered question. I mean, the biggest unanswered parts are not known, like how much money this is for. That was not reported. I don't know when or if that will be reported, but I know it's got to be reassuring to just have this amongst the many questions they have to have a big piece answered is good for the Pac-12.
Chris Vanini had this. If you're wondering how the Pac-12 will split revenue, the Athletic has obtained the membership forms or terms. Equal shares keep 50% of the NCAA tournament, the men's basketball tournament. You earn, but Oregon State, Washington State keep the college football money a little bit more, about $3 million annually. So they get a little bit more of a bump because of the college football playoff. There's a lot more details to that, but that's kind of, in a way, initially how they will split things up.
Yeah, I already have Paramount Plus just because there's a couple shows on there that I watch, and I think it comes with a subscription I had anyway. Like they give it away a lot, so it has a lot of rotating promo codes.
What do you watch on there?
I watch. Now I'm blanking. Tulsa King.
Tulsa King. Okay.
Tulsa King, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I did watch it. Yeah.
So
a lot of people watch Yellowstone, I guess. I didn't
That's where it first came out, yeah.
Yeah, so like anything of the Taylor Sheridan universe, he's got a show with Tom Hardy called Mobland I haven't watched yet. So I'll like Dexter's on there now. So like, I'll pick up the thing here and there. So
yeah, I mean,
but specifically for me, I'm not gonna. It better be a pretty good Pac-12 game for me to go seek it out on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to sign up strictly for that. But if they have a deal or something, then that could be tempting to just be able to catch a couple games here and there. I don't have CBS Sports Network. Is that a part of Paramount Plus?
CBS Sports Network is kind of molded into it. Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't have that on regular cable, so that's where most of the games will air. It looks like a CBS Sports Network, which I don't have. So, I'm just talking from a place that I think a lot of people are. Don't know how much our audience will really lean into the Pac, but I mean, like I said, my main takeaway from it is there's a lot of details that aren't known, like the money piece, that are the more interesting parts of this. But good for them. Certainly not at this point rooting for them to crater. I think that's kind of come and gone, that whole beef with the Big 12, obviously, a couple of years ago. We've moved on from that, but it was interesting to see the comments, about being a power league and all that the other day, and the discourse about that. But at this point, I mean, good for them. Go get your TV deal, boo-boo, and make some money and get your league straight and get Texas State in there so you can move on and go do what you need to do after that. But this is a big piece for them.
Let me read again the details on this, just a little bit from Chris. The college football playoff will remove its participation bonus in 2026 for the Pac-12, but membership terms state that Oregon State, Washington State will keep all revenue associated with the 3-year agreement, 26, 27, 28, along with all of the NCAA units earned before this year, per the document from controlling the Pac-12. Bob Thompson said this earlier: partner number one secured looks eerily similar to the CBS Mountain West Conference deal. I might surmise that this marks the end of that relationship. Don't read anything into the fact that they just announced, one, that there will also most likely be 2 and or 3 partners before this is done.
I mean, it's looking a lot like that deal. And so that would make sense because they're pretty much in the same ballpark, and you've obviously got some crossover interest there. So that very well could be. And the Pac is a bigger brand name than the Mountain West is at this point. I don't know by how much or how much of a debate that really is, but it is a bigger brand name. And I think with what they've gone and poached from, their last year of hunting, then they've pretty firmly established themselves, I would think, as the top, G6? Is that the proper term now?
Yeah.
The top G6. So I could see where that would be, in place of the Mountain West. That would be a little bit more appetizing for CBS, but I mean, good for them. I don't know how many signups you're going to get or how much crossover there is. I'll have to try to catch Paramount Plus on a deal or something like that when they do some of those. What do you call it? The temporary, like, kind of.
Well, it's like, remember when you got direct,
like a cell phone or something, and you get a free year.
NFL, the Sunday ticket. There's always a little bit of a catch that you get with that. So we'll just kind of see how that plays out. And really how I have YouTube TV and I have local cable, which is basically, that part of it for me is almost nothing. And I know I see all those logos, Paramount Plus, but that's where I started watching Yellowstone and Tulsa King. So
yeah, I mean, it lines up with the next wave of conference contracts with TV deals and potential realignment and that 2030, 2031 pocket. So that makes sense as well to have that line up with everybody else. And again, I'm just interested in the part they didn't mention, which is the actual money going around. But you mentioned the money about.
Yeah, they didn't mention the total money. I thought that Wilner Friday told us between 7 to 8 and 11 million, probably more towards the middle or less.
Yeah, and that's notable. Whatever that number is, I'm sure we'll find out at some point or another. But that's the part that I'm really intrigued by. And I don't know what this means for the Mountain West, for example, but let's see them go get Texas State now and try to wrap this thing up.
All right, a couple other college football notes. By the way, today our first guest, it will be Chris Houston. He is from Heisman.com. He's an historian for the Heisman Trophy. Rafael Barlow on Thunder Up, Oklahoma City winning the NBA championship and the draft coming up. Eli Hoff on the story about Missouri, the NIL they spent the last 6 months. Phil Simms. Like, why him? We'll tell you that in just a moment. And CBS Sports' John Talty on the Wisconsin-Miami, the lawsuit to Wisconsin filed a lawsuit against Miami for tampering.
This is big. This is a big summer for us. We had Talty that Monday you were gone.
Yeah, I know.
So
here's Colorado. They threw this up over the weekend. I reached out to Brian Howell. I said, hey, Brian, can you tell me exactly what the difference is? And they've gone from natural grass to turf.
Big mistake.
Isn't everybody doing the opposite right now?
Yeah, no, most everybody, if they do make that change, some of them are going. I do remember they had kind of what seemed like, even with all the great speed they had, it was kind of a not clumpy, that's not the right word, but they're going from, that's why I asked. I said, what, is there another part of the stadium they built? But no, you could tell that is turf, rather than what was natural grass.
According to Google's AI. So, again, be careful with how accurate that is. But apparently, to accommodate a wider range of events was the first thing that popped up when I typed in Colorado turf. So that popped up immediately. So maybe it's just an attempt to get concerts and things like that you otherwise might not have up there and make a little bit more money and less upkeep and things like that. But that's interesting just because everybody seems to be doing the complete opposite. They're going from turf to natural grass. So Colorado doing things their own way. And this is the time of year. I mean, you pop that up, I'd have no earthly idea of what this is even referring to whatsoever. But this is like the new school semester starting here pretty soon. So everybody's got their new clothes and their new car and their new whatever, and everybody's announcing all their fancy little changes before the season starts. So Colorado's changed their surface, and, you know, good for them. Looks nice.
All right. Can you imagine if Travis Hunter and the Sanders, et cetera, the receivers they had, if they would have had turf, you think faster already. Speaking of which, Travis Hunter got paid. $46.65 million deal with Jacksonville, including nearly $6 million bonus, making him the first non-quarterback not drafted first overall to receive his entire signing bonus, when he signed.
It's definitely not a boning.
No, he didn't do the boning.
No, he's that's. I'm not surprised that the most interesting and talented player to come out in the last decade. As far as, two-way player, I mean, I say that I'm lumping him in. He's the only two-way player that's come out in the last ever. So
legitimately playing both sides of the football almost all the time.
Yeah, not this like, oh, well, he's really fast. We'll have him run a go route a couple of times and see if he can run past somebody and catch the ball. This is a completely different thing. He is, and he will be the face of the Jaguars. Like maybe even more so than Trevor Lawrence, because of his, personality might be a little bit bigger than Trevor's, and because he's this Heisman Trophy winner that plays both ways and seems to be really embracing it all the way around there. Really, he wanted to go to Jacksonville, which makes me think he's just that kind of crazy in the world, to do something really great.
Well, I mean, him signing his contract was to be expected at some point sooner rather than later. So I guess it's good to get that done. I know that they got all cute with it and did separate social media announcements. We signed DB Travis Hunter, and then we signed wide receiver Travis Hunter. So they double dipped, and I'm sure that'll be a big part of their marketing is just really playing into that two-way player. And why not? I mean, that was the big appeal with him was the fact that he's doubly talented. So, yeah, they're really leaning into that marketing-wise, it seems like, and I'm sure we'll see our fill of it as he's definitely one of the faces, if not the face now. But, yeah, the only other guy you'd say is Trevor Lawrence, and he's been around for a while at this point. So kind of feels like Travis is the new toy that people are super excited about and could very well be the face. But he's getting a lot of money, deserve it, and good for him.
So the transfer portal has now been through 2 cycles with the way the rules are now. And, of course, that could change at any time. I saw this from Pick 6 previews. These are the schools with 10 or more 4- or 5-star transfers that they have been able to, add in the last 2 transfer cycles. There's the list of those. There's 16 teams, 8 SEC, 4 Big Ten, 2 Big 12, and 2 ACC. But those are the schools. There's a few in there. There's some of them, Kentucky with a pretty good chunk. South Carolina's on the up. We know that. Missouri, good for them. And Wisconsin at the bottom with a nice little chunk. And we also, of course, we talk quite a bit about Texas Tech, A&M, and UT.
And these are transfers in, correct?
In, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not lost, but these are the ones they've added with 10-plus total 4- or 5-star transfers over the past couple of cycles.
Yeah, you know what's weird about the list, if you look at it, it doesn't look, they not surprising that the bigger schools and the ones that are brand names are the ones that get the 4- and 5-star guys who transfer out of a place to come back in, because those were the places that were recruiting them also when they committed. But this list is in no way indicative of success at all. No, that's why it's so weird about it. It's like it's free agency. You're like, oh, well, these are the guys who've gotten the highest rated transfers, but there's peaks and valleys all over this list, sometimes with the same exact team. So, but it is interesting to see that there's not a one single team in that list that I looked at and went, oh, they did? Even Kentucky. Like, I knew they've gone out and Kentucky is the cast off, you were a 4-star quarterback at Georgia, the 5-star beat you out, or the little engine that could, Stetson Bennett, we'll take that quarterback. Like that doesn't surprise me even at all.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I really have many thoughts on, these teams picking these. I don't know. I guess my takeaway from this is there's nearly 200 4- and 5-star former players that are in the transfer portal and have moved around is really what jumps out to me, because you got like 16 teams here. Was it 16, 8, 12? Yeah, it's like 16 teams. They've all got 10 minimum. So there's 160 players at minimum that were 4- and 5-stars at one point in time that have transferred in the last 2 years. That's what jumps out to me. And not all of them are moving because they're still playing like 4- and 5-stars. Some of them are, banking and gliding off their high school rating or what have you. But I mean, Texas is bringing in really good players. A&M's bringing in really good players. Tech obviously feels they're bringing in really good players. Everybody feels good about this. I don't know really what it means, though. I just think it's another thing to break down. And
there's no
mention in the offseason, basically, is, it's just another one of those kind of social media posts. But I guess I'm just more, not taken aback, but just intrigued by the fact there's that many guys on the move, but it's really not that surprising.
Yeah, it's not just about the teams, but it's how many players of 4- and 5-star players.
It's 160, just based off this.
Minimum, minimum. All right, this is one of our guests today at 5 o'clock is Phil Simms. He won a couple of Super Bowls while playing for the New York Giants and Bill Parcells and company. But today, Morehead State renaming their football stadium after Phil Simms, coming up in homecoming the middle of October. He's more known for what he did as an NFL quarterback. He also was a broadcaster for CBS for a long, long time. I reached out to him because we've had him on, I think, once during Super Bowl Radio Row, and I just sent him a text. Hey, would you like to come on and discuss this? It's a pretty cool deal. Initially, the first thing I thought about, that looks like Terry Bradshaw. Like, really like Terry Bradshaw, the old face mask helmet, because it's black and white. You don't know what color that is. The number 12, pretty thick kind of upper body. but it is Phil Simms. He will join us today. He is thrilled about this. It'll be good to hear from him on what this means to have his name put on the stadium.
And he was no diamond in the rough out of Morehead State either. Like, he was the 7th pick in the first round. So he was that good at Morehead State back in the 70s when he got picked. And, won Super Bowls, been a broadcaster for a very long time. Because of him, we got to try as many charwood oysters as we wanted to.
Yes, Jim Nance.
CBS was shooting some of their Super Bowl preview stuff at Drago's, and I'm glad I get
covering
to
the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
I'm glad I get to thank him in person.
Yeah, we will do that.
Yeah.
So he's apparently done a lot since leaving Morehead State for the NFL and also his broadcast career, and so his name will be on the stadium effective mid-October. Now, a couple other notes. This is Matt Rule. They had a big weekend. A lot of teams had their big weekend of hosting visitors, prospects, etc. He's on a bull. And, of course, Nebraska, this was at the College World Series. Nebraska known for a lot of things, including not winning many football games lately. That's with Dylan Raiola. So he's sitting on a big, thick bull because of steak and all that, and they're in the Midwest. Meanwhile, UT El Paso, well, they like horses and, of course, cowboy hats. So this was the weekend with Scotty Walden and company as they're hosting recruits and prospects. So a couple of stories, a couple of pictures I thought would just kind of break up the monotony.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like, it's crazy recruiting time right now. And, you can –
the Lambos were out in Austin again, by the way.
Pick your favorite team, and you can drink in all potentially good news about it. But because recruiting is so vastly different now, like there's absolutely no reason to get more excited than, oh, cool, because you don't know. When I was 2 years old, my dad wanted to get a cat for a friend of his because they had lost their cat. He came home and went away for a week and said, we'll give it to when we get back. And they couldn't take the cat away from me, 2-year-old Paul. I would say don't be 2-year-old Paul and get attached to any of these players, because there's a high likelihood they'll get ripped away from you.
That's a great
Yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's fun to have fun in recruiting and have fun with the social media stuff and marketing your program and all that. It doesn't hit the same way it used to. I mean, to Paul's point, I think, is that it's all very fleeting compared to 5 years ago when that pick would have meant a lot more, because you know that guy's going to be on your team for a while. And now it's like the commit that Dan Lanning got where they jumped in the pool and it was kind of embarrassing, and that kid decommitted like 2 weeks later. And it's like, so all that was for what? For nothing, basically. The embarrassment of you doing that, the celebration of the commitment, that kid's 5 minutes of his Oregon fame commitment, and then it was whatever else he's done now. I don't even remember his name, but wherever he is. So that kind of stuff's just very fleeting now and doesn't quite weigh the same. But I'm all for just trying to still have fun with it, and coaches doing silly stuff. I mean, it's not as bad as Brian Kelly, like grinding up on a recruit. So the bull thing's fun and harmless, and I've seen people make a joke out of that because we'll find a way to make a joke out of anything. But yeah, it's a big piece of muscle right there, that damn bull. But yeah, I mean, they're having fun with it and still kind of bringing some of that older recruiting marketing type of flavor, even if it's not quite as heavy and I guess solid as it once was.
Yeah, no, you don't know from one day. Well, remember we had the transfer who was at Maryland, committed to North Carolina, signed NIL, ended up in Austin. So I mean that's just part of the way it is. Here are a couple of nuggets. College football scheduling. There are certain quirks in the algorithm that don't make sense, and this is one of them. This is from Chris Vanini. He's been busy. Off-season research. Louisville has been in the ACC for 10 years and not played at Virginia Tech. Just 2 times they've met in 10 years. They will finally meet this year. SEC gets a lot of the attention. We've heard this. We've said this. We validated this, that they get hit with a lot of the 8 games in the conference, but the ACC is also right there with them.
Yeah, well, have more than 2 or 3 of your teams be relevant and people will start caring. I know that's harsh to say about the ACC, but they have so many of their teams that are stuck in neutral. And so they kind of fall back here. But the 8-game conference schedule, the same thing. Like, they don't have a formula where, Louisville and Virginia Tech play. I don't know if like that makes either fan base all that mad, but it was very similar with, A&M and Georgia. Like, that was part of the thing.
Hold on, stop. What'd you say?
Of A&M and Georgia.
Garrett, show this one. A&M and Georgia have been in the same conference since 2012, and the Dogs have yet to visit College Station.
Yeah,
so there we go with that one.
Yeah, so that's what sold to the fans of realignment. It's like, hey, you're going to see all these cool new teams, and it's going to be different. It's going to be fun, and hey, Georgia's going to come here. When? Louisville's going to come here. When? Like, yeah, it's an upside down model.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC doesn't get as much attention for it because not as many people care. I mean, that's pretty clear, and that's not good for them that people just don't even care to point out that they only play 8 games because they don't care and don't feel it's all that important because it's just sort of irrelevant in the big picture. And I don't think the ACC is irrelevant. I don't think their top teams are irrelevant, but I think there's just this expectation that they're not going to be around for very much longer, and so people just don't give a what about them, basically. They don't feel like they really matter in the long run, and I think that's obviously not great news if you're a big fan of the ACC and those programs. They don't feel like they're going to get scooped up right away. I don't think it's great if you think that the ACC is a long term, that they're just kind of completely on the back burner in people's minds, but that's sort of where we find ourselves. And yeah, nobody pointing out the 8 games while bitching about the SEC incessantly. And so that's why sometimes we're in the middle of a conversation. It's the SEC this and SEC that. And it's like, well, wait a second. There's other teams, leagues, commissioners out there doing similar things depending on what the topic is. And so, yeah, that's a very Georgia A&M-like note there that I hadn't thought about at all, but I like that Chris put that out there, that Louisville and Vautech haven't played in the decade that they've been in the league together, or no, has been the not they haven't played at Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
But still, 2 meetings in 10 years is not great either. So yeah, these super conferences, like I know there's a time period where we had to lean into that because it was about survival.
Yeah.
But the SEC didn't need more teams to survive. They just made sense. Like, why would you not add Texas and Oklahoma and look at all the rewards they're reaping? Same thing with the Big Ten. Like, they're much richer because they added all these teams. But from a product standpoint, yeah, you do get Oregon, Michigan now, but there's a lot of things that do just kind of fall through the cracks, and everybody playing everybody was really cool and unique in the Big 12 there for a little while, and we're never going to see that again on the highest level. I mean, you'll get that in your smaller leagues, but yeah, in these bigger leagues with 16, 18, 20 teams, some people want like the SEC to go to 24, the Big Ten to go to 24. Yeah, you won't have teams playing each other for over a decade at their place, and that's just kind of crazy.
2 points on that. One, when the SEC goes to 9 games, I can't wait for them to call up Jim Phillips and ask for his comment, and he's going to go, what now? What's that? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's tough here.
Well, good luck for them going back to the drawing board and saying, hey, we want more money for a 9th conference game. ESPN's going to be like, okay, good luck to you.
Exactly. And then on the other thing, bigger doesn't always mean better. I mean, I'll just give the example of, I love Whataburger. I've always loved Whataburger. I haven't stopped loving it, but I do think it's a little bit worse since it's now part of a big
it's definitely worse. Unless you want to sponsor this show, and it's as good as it ever was. But if not, then it's definitely worse.
But wait a minute, it's not as good?
Yeah, but since they got bought by this big company in Chicago,
I didn't know that,
they've lost whatever, like some of their, whatever makes them who they are. And I think that that's true in most things, especially in college football. All right, did adding Louisville, it was about survival for the ACC. It made sense. They were available, but it hasn't benefited everybody in the conference. It's maybe benefited Louisville a little bit. The Big East was falling apart, but is it going to benefit the conference as a whole other than making more money? If
it's survival, that's the number one thing.
But does it benefit the fans?
Right, no.
So does it benefit the fans of Whataburger, people who eat at Whataburger, that this new big company has it, and there's going to be Whataburgers in Cleveland where there weren't now? Well, I don't live in Cleveland. I live here, and my Whataburger was awesome, and now it feels a little worse.
Garrett, when was the last time you had a double meat, double cheese, or whatever Whataburger?
Oh, probably about a month, honestly.
Really, Craig?
Yeah.
If you
I
double?
was like something like last week. I mean, I still go there from time to time, but it's definitely not as good as it was. It's not as good ingredients. I don't think the customer service is as good as it used to be. I mean, there was always Whataburger's always a long wait though. Like they always were, 15 minutes waiting no matter when you pulled up or whatever. But I definitely don't think the burgers are as good as they were about 3 or 4 years ago.
There's a difference between theirs and others. You're right. There's everyone liked their own one. But if I ever did, and I probably did twice a year, was a Whataburger, did the double meat, double cheese, fries, and moved on. And Garrett Ross is a national champion yet again in another sport.
No one cares. They've won 8. It's not that exciting.
8 of them. All right. Now listen, this was a lot. This is a tight series. 1-0, 5-3. Good for LSU. Good for Jay Johnson, the coach, and I mean the pitching. The guy. What was the Saturday?
Kate Anderson?
Good God,
He's cold, man.
I mean his off-speed pitches. Not to mention he had a mid to lower 90s, and then last night 95 pretty much consistently. Coastal Carolina was really, really good, but LSU with yet another national championship.
Yeah,
and
congrats.
there's a side story. We'll get to that in a second.
Do you want to get to that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Is that what you're going to say?
Congrats to LSU. I mean, you said it was competitive. It didn't feel – I mean, it was competitive, but then again, it wasn't in that once LSU won that first game, it just felt like, oh, wow, they're gonna probably win this series. And that was a really impressive pitching performance in game 1, as you mentioned. Game 2, a little bit more offense from both sides. But, yeah, LSU's just really, really good. And as much as people were all over Coastal, I mean, when they got that 1-0 win, I just felt like, oh, damn, that was the first strike needed to kind of take this over. And they didn't let it get to a third game. So good on them for going in there and getting it done. And this is what I talked about before the tournament started.
Mm-hmm.
What was everybody saying about, SEC teams and blah, 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 and they didn't get this many, and they got this many, and I said, it's not going to matter if they win at the end, and guess what happened?
They won it.
Here they are. They win at the end.
6
so everybody's
or 7
like,
in a row, right?
SEC this, look who wins at the end. Look who gets the bragging rights, and that's why they are who they are, because they win the championships. But, I mean, that's a great program. 8 titles now is second all-time. They've got a couple more than Texas at this point and just 4 behind USC, which I think in the next 20 years is very doable for them
the trending is
close
true,
that gap
based
on the way the last couple decades have gone. So, yeah, I mean, I think 12 is within reach in the next 10, 20 years with the trajectory that they're on. But I said it on Friday, I guess it was. No, Thursday. LSU just wins, man. I mean, to their credit, there's schools that get in that big moment and they completely crater. They hyperventilate or they just can't get the job done. And LSU, and whatever sport it is, just seems to get a crack at a championship. And more often than not, they win that sucker. So kudos to them. That's the school that probably more than any other the last 20 years or just in my lifetime has gone from like this level to a couple notches higher based on all the success they've had, especially since 2000. I think probably more than just about anybody out there from football to basketball to baseball, and then your other sports like gymnastics.
Yeah, women's basketball won it all, just 2 years ago. Football had Burrow, and basketball is trying to get themselves in position. Gymnastics. By the way, one quick note about what Craig said about USC and LSU, and then Paul. USC won their 12th and last national title in 1998. At the time, LSU had 4. So that means in the last 27 years, LSU has won 4, and USC is still which is nothing wrong with it, at 12.
I think the amount of teams that gets in from a conference is not the issue with the SEC, and I think it gets muddled in the argument. I think when it came down to this particular season, the seeding was off because there was some SEC bias, which is going to happen. And I think that Coastal Carolina was way underseeded for who they were.
Yeah, they're like 13.
They were 13th, and they should have been able to host a super regional, and they weren't. That doesn't change the fact that there were a lot of good teams in the SEC, but some of them shouldn't have been top 8 seeds. They should have been further down the list. So a team like Coastal Carolina could be up a little bit more. That's my only issue with it is the actual seeding, because I thought, and Garrett, you and I talked about
Tell the
this.
truth, it's because Florida State didn't host.
Well, look, Florida State didn't host because they lost to North Carolina, all those times, and they were 9th. So I think Coastal clearly had a better case than anybody to be ranked higher. And then, part of it was Texas's season was a bit of a mirage, I think, as to how good they really were.
Good. They beat LSU, 2 out of 3 or swept them.
I got them a couple times.
But as far as a team,
concerns with Texas were, could they score enough runs when they got into the postseason against other teams like them, which they did against the SEC? But then they had a couple of major injuries. But they went ahead and
won the SEC. Yeah. But so that happened. I'm not begrudging them that, but I think that that's a bit of a mirage, and then that kind of threw it off. But I do think the seeding could have been a little bit better.
They were a 3 or 4 or 5 seed. That's where they would have been no matter what. Now, there was another story. I was so Garrett, we have this group text with a lot of us in it, and Garrett goes, I don't know exactly what you said, but something about drama in the first inning. There was the ejection of Kevin Snall, the head coach at Coastal Carolina, the first base coach. It all started because of sign stealing accusations in the first inning. And then Snall comes out of the dugout. The umpire kind of checks him for a second. Then Snall puts up the 3 fingers. You mean the 3 missed calls? He's gone. Then the first base coach comes running down after Snall had been basically shooed away, as he even said, he's gone. The part that was I had to giggle, was the umpire rushing in from first base of the right field line and trying to get in between Snall and the umpire. And then he trips backwards, and apparently, and I checked on this, he put up 2 fingers because Snall was going to get suspended for 2 games for bumping an umpire, and he never bumped the umpire. The first base umpire tripped over his feet or tripped over the other one. So here is Snall. This is 2 minutes. Here is Snall. I couldn't wait to hear this yesterday afternoon, trying to explain the situation. He does not hold back.
There's 25,000 people there, and I vaguely hear a warning issued. As the head coach, I was an assistant for 24 years, and as an assistant, you're almost treated like a second level citizen, and you can't say a word. Now, as a head coach, I think it is your right to get an explanation of why we got warned. And I'm 48 years old. I shouldn't get shooed by another grown man, right? So when I come out to ask what the warning is, a grown man shooed me. So at that point, I can now hear him say, it was a warning issued for arguing balls and strikes. And at that point, I said, because you missed 3. At that point, ejected. If that warrants an ejection, I'm the first one to stand here like a man and apologize. 2 words that define our program are own it. And what does that mean is you have to own everything that you do without blame, without defending yourself, without excuses. If you guys watched the video, there was a guy that came in extremely aggressively, tripped over Campos's foot, embarrassed in front of 25,000, immediately goes 2-game suspension and said, bumping the umpire. Immediately does that. There was no bump. He was embarrassed. I shouldn't be held accountable for a grown man's athleticism. They'll retract it, though, because now it's excessive. And the reason why it's excessive, because I was trying to say, I didn't bump him. It is what it is. But if that warranted an ejection, man, there'd be a lot of ejections. As an umpire, I feel like it's your job to manage the game, the national championship game, with some poise, some calmness, and a little bit of tolerance.
All right, there's different things being said in the chat room. Some saying cry harder, anger issues or whatever. Paul, Craig, we start with you. Your thoughts about the take on this, and then we could also get Garrett if you wanted some feedback on this too.
I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on it. I just think it's super unfortunate. I didn't get real deep into the details on this, and I didn't miss it, or I didn't see it live at the time. I saw most of this after the fact. I do think that the umpire clearly tripped, and then probably was pretty embarrassed. I guess my big takeaway is just that, yeah, it's super unfortunate to happen that early in a game with that big of stakes. Is just it just sucks, man. I mean, you want to be at full capacity and you want to have your best people in place to compete for a title, and you're in the first inning of a must-win game, and your first base coach and your head coach are now gone completely because of this interaction. I just think that that's not at all what you want in a championship game. I do think that one umpire was a total goof and tripped over himself and then got up embarrassed like he said. But the rest of it, I'll let y'all handle that. I mean, I didn't get really deep into the weeds on this. I didn't see it live like I mentioned. So I saw him talk about it after the fact. I saw a couple of the clips, and I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on whether they were right or wrong. I just think the whole situation sucks and put a damper early on in that game on what should have been about the game and not about officiating. I'm just really tired of talking about officials in big moments. And here we are yet again.
Yeah, he had rabbit ears, that's for sure. They all did. And it was such a crazy thing because, you know, all of a sudden on the broadcast, they're like, Kevin Schnall's just been ejected. And I was like, whoa, I mean, for what? And I mean, I thought he might have said something like in the dugout, but nothing had really happened all that much. I do know, like, just from reading a lot of the reporters that were there, is they were saying that it was getting a little tense because, and the warning happened because LSU's third base coach was tipping some pitches in the first inning, which
a little sportsmanship.
It's a little gamesmanship right there, you know. And so little tensions were high, but to run a coach for that in the bottom of the first inning, just you're not doing your job at the level it should be. And that's the biggest thing. And then because the guy fell over, ass over tea kettle, and embarrassed himself, he got up and was like, well, I must have been bumped. Like, now you tripped over your own feet.
There's a cardinal rule. First of all, LSU didn't win because the coach was ejected. Let's make that clear.
Yeah,
really
so
good. But
it was just it was unfortunate for the game that happened.
Yeah, it overshadowed the game for a long time. It did not overshadow the end of the game, but then again, you want to hear from Coach Schnall. There is a cardinal rule in baseball. I don't like it. I get it. I also understand. Otherwise, you could have these clown shows that last forever with arguments. You do not argue balls and strikes, and you don't do it profusely, and you don't do it in a way that shows up the umpire, even if the umpire has rabbit ears, which no doubt in my mind that guy did. Because you know what the umpire probably thought about for the next 3 to 4 innings during the game? Man, I bet he probably felt like he could have handled that better too. So he's now distracted. But I hated that it became a part of the story and the fact that today we're talking about it, but it is part of the story. Congratulations to Coach Johnson, LSU, and a great win for them, and they end up winning their 8th overall championship. There was a note in the chat room from Go Black. Who's Coastal Carolina? Never heard of them, whatever. If you're an LSU fan, you know who they are. I know he was bitter. I get why you should feel the way you do and excited. But they also remember what Kramer Robertson told us on Friday. They knocked LSU out, right, Garrett?
Yeah, they
LSU fans know all about Coastal Carolina because they went on to win the World Series title.
By the way, on that, Ryan McGee did a little thing about winners and losers and the agony and ecstasy and all that stuff. And the last picture was poor Kramer, like, huddled down on the ground.
That's what he was talking about going viral the other day.
Yes, was Kramer huddled down on the ground. And I was like, well, that's the picture he hates. He just told us about it the other day. And here it is. It was they did this, 50 picture montage. And it was picture 50 right before he's like, and back to you guys in Omaha. And it's like, damn, guy.
Yeah. So there we are. Congratulations to LSU. That's awesome. For them, and I thought it ended not 1-0. I thought it all ended when Coastal hit the home run to lead 1-0, and the very next inning LSU tied it up almost immediately. All right, when we come back, there was this basketball game played. We have Rafael Barlow, who's going to join us at 425. But there's a couple of local notes about Oklahoma City and the Thunder. One of them is our Emery Winter. Another one is a local high school player who played in the Big 12. And two of them who played in the Big 12. That and more. We appreciate your time, and this is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Dr. Ken Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be as you get older. No matter what your exercise routine is, no matter what your diet is, for whatever reason, it might just be you, one of every 3 or 4 men who have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. It just happens. Some people have high cholesterol. Some people have blood pressure issues. And it's just because of whatever is in your system or whatever's in your DNA. Testosterone can drop, and it may not be your fault. In fact, it's not. So how do you fix it? Contact Petty Clinic, lowt.com. Tell them I sent you, and Dr. Petty and his staff will set you up to get your blood drawn. He gets the results, and if your testosterone level is too low, he has an option and a program to put you in so you could become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be at pettycliniclowt.com.
Employee Pricing Plus is back at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals are insane. Get a 2025 Ram 1500 Laramie Crew Cab. Your choice. 1.9 for 72 months, or $12,000 off and 3.9 for 72 months, or a flat-out $16,000 off MSRP. Wow! Ford, GM, or Toyota owner, take $1,500 more off only at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends. I'll never get used to this.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Last call for Employee Pricing Plus at Allen Samuels in Waco. Get a beast of a truck with a Ram 1-ton 4x4 Cummins diesel for just $52,995. Or go off-road with the Jeep Wrangler Rubicon and save $15,000 off MSRP. Only 2 left. Prefer an SUV? Get a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee for $10,000 off MSRP. Even better, a 2025 Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for just $26,700. Visit Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We mentioned that Garrett Rossi's an LSU Tigers fan. They won the College World Series for the 8th time. And then there is our young pup. Well, that's King Jiu-Jitsu. But Emery Winter is now a fan of a world championship team from OKC.
He's wearing his Thunder Up shirt today?
Stand up so I can know the cameras can't see you, but go ahead and, yep, there you go. He's got it on.
Yeah.
Thunder Up. They win. They had to wear down Indiana. No, Halliburton got hurt, but congratulations, Emery Winter, for the Thunder and your first ever experience as a world champion. Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, congrats to the Thunder. Very cool. I mean, it's an asterisk because Halliburton wasn't totally healthy, but
we had to watch his Achilles tendon get ripped over and over again. It just popped. Oh gosh.
Yeah, no, I'm just doing what I hate when my teams win. People try to pull that. Oh, well, it was this and it was that, and it's like, no, it's a championship. It counts the same in the record books. The trophy's the same and all that deal. And yeah, they were the best team in the league. Pretty much wire to wire, Emery. I mean, best team in the regular season, top seed, and a team that went all the way down to the wire to earn it, but definitely earned it when all was said and done. And they're set up incredibly well for the future. They've got the best GM arguably in basketball and have a lot of picks and a lot of things. This was all by design, this whole ramp up to this championship. I mean, they had their big three once upon a time, had to break all that down and then rebuild in a different way. And they've done that. And it's just a really well-run organization with really good leadership and some really great talent, and very cool for that market that has nothing else outside of Oklahoma and Oklahoma State sports. As far as professional goes, this is the only dog in town, and they support their Thunder, and they just had the new arena announcement, and now you have that bolstered by a world championship. It's just, a really good time to be an Oklahoma sports fan and a Thunder fan. So congrats to them, and it's very cool.
Not everybody that is I'm about to mention from the Big 12 who played Big 12 basketball. In fact, for example, Brandon Carlson played at Utah. They weren't a part of the Big 12 at the time. Also a part of the Big 12 was Dort. He played at Arizona State. And then Adam Flagler from Baylor is a world champion. He was a part of their national championship team in 21. And Adam Flagler, he was in street clothes. He was not a part of the rotation or whatever, but he played a little bit this year. Good for him. He is a world champion. And then also one other player, TCU's Kenrich Williams. He played at University High School in Waco, known for LaDainian Tomlinson, Walter Abercrombie, and others. And now he had no scholarship offers coming out of high school. He went to TCU, and now he's also a part of a world championship roster.
How does Scott Drew explain that one? No scholarship offers, period.
Yeah.
But at least he's in your backyard, though. Like, man, a bunch of people whiffed on him, man.
We did a high school game at University High, and I don't remember who was against it. He was in it.
He was really good,
man.
He was really good. Yeah.
He was fantastic.
That's actually where we met one of our longtime producers, Dion, was
that's right.
at that game.
Dion Epps. Yeah. No, Dion Williams.
Dion Williams. Yeah. But Kenrich was a really good player here. He's really good at TCU. And is he the second longest tenured Thunder player or something like that, or one of the longer tenured ones? Like, he's been there a long time, and he's a key role player. He plays about 8 minutes a night, it seems. Last night, I don't know how much he played, but I know that in Game 6 he played quite a bit for what his normal workload is. So, yeah, it's great for him and great for the Thunder, great for Emery.
He played 69 games. He played 16 postseason games, so almost every one of them.
Yeah, he's he's not a star, but he's a key role player for them. He's kind of the lifeblood of the franchise because he's been there so long. And now it's full speed ahead on everything for the Thunder. They announced their new arena is going to get built, and Sam Presti is the best GM in the league right now. They've got 1 million draft picks over the next 10 years, it seems like. So when guys get old or, they can't, meet their contract demands, you can just send them on their way and get a new one. And yeah, they were a fun team to watch. I feel really bad for Tyrese Halliburton because we probably won't we probably are going to go through an NBA season this year with no Damian Lillard, no Jason Tatum, and no Tyrese Halliburton because they all had the same injury all in the postseason.
Well,
which is a bummer.
Yeah, it's part of the wear and tear, the attrition. But I did see when they showed the slow motion, you could see kind of that disconnect between his Achilles, his ankle, whatever, and his leg. That was gross. Ray J. Dennis, by the way, was on Indiana's roster, former Baylor player too.
Yeah, I feel bad for Halliburton. He had a really good year, and to end it that way is terrible, and to obviously have an impact on next season as well. Just a real bummer, and sucks for Pacers fans. I mean, you had that initial push here in the finals where you thought, okay, maybe the Indiana does have the goods to get this done, and then Halliburton, ultimately getting hurt so early in the game just really put a damper on things. But they still fought, and they're a very good team. They scratched and clawed. They made things interesting and definitely made Emery sweat, I think, more than he wanted to. But, I mean, they kicked their ass in Game 6, forced that Game 7, and just unfortunate how it worked out. But they were scrappy, and I give them a lot of credit for making things interesting, even with some adversity there, like losing your star player. But, brutal way for things to end for Indiana, and a glorious way for a really terrific year for the Thunder to be capped off. And, congrats to Emery on being able to enjoy that. It's a special feeling for sure.
All right, now the pressure mounts. Whenever a coach wins his first state championship or world championship, you ask somebody that is your guru, so what does this mean? It means you better do it again. Now you got to do it again. But enjoy the first one, and they're really good. They're loaded. And you mentioned the draft picks. We got a break, come back with our first guest, Steve Houston. But one of the things, Chris Houston, is that I saw a trade with Durant to Houston. What does it say about NBA draft picks when part of that trade, along with 2 or 3 or 4 other players, is they get five second-round picks? It's like, why do they even have a second round? That 5 second-round picks is a part of that trade, but a huge pickup, a name, brings some adrenaline to the Rockets, and Kevin Durant, played in Texas at UT, is now back in the state.
Jalen Brunson, second-round pick. So that's why.
No, I'm not saying no one's ever made it in the second round, but I mean, it's like 5 second-round picks. You just accumulate all these things. It's like they don't even care about them. But there's a lot of guys who have been. There's a lot of guys who were undrafted have been good too.
Yeah, I mean, they're tokens like anything else. It's like the way you trade and use it is just like using money to acquire what you need to. So they're thrown around a lot looser than you would see in the NFL, for example. And a lot of times second round picks don't mean anything. It's just more trade bait to go and trade more stuff down the line. But Oklahoma City did a incredible job of stockpiling picks and led to a lot of the talents they have on this team that led them to this world title. So, they knew what they were doing in that regard. And I think with the Kevin Durant thing, I mean, it's unique that he was on stage when the news broke. He was at the big Fanatics Fest thing in New York City, and they got his initial reaction right then and there to the trade news. I guess my reaction was not so much the trade haul, because at this point I'm just sort of numb to NBA trades and how many picks are involved. I mean, you have guys who are, to a casual fan at least, not the biggest names, who go for just these gobs and gobs of picks and everything else, and it is kind of weird. I'm just marveling at how many teams Kevin Durant, for being as much of a legend as he is, and for being as good of a player and Hall of Famer and everything as he is, I'm just marveling at how he's played like for half the league now at this point. That's what's wild to me, is you have a star of that caliber, and he's played on like a bajillion teams at this point in time, and may have another 1 or 2 left in him before it's all said and done. Like, he might be in Portland before we know it, but It's great for Houston. I mean, he's a Texas Longhorn. He knows the area, and there's going to be a lot of fans that love KD, and that'll be great for ticket sales. And I know they traded some good pieces away, but to get Kevin Durant, it's justifiable, and he's still very good despite getting older. So, just more new scenery for him, and that's the thing that just kind of boggles my mind, is how many teams he's played for.
With KD, it's interesting because, he went to Golden State for those couple years and won his titles, and then when he wanted to cash in on the big deal that he got, that Brooklyn thing just kind of set his career on this path to where they were never going to be, what anybody else could, because they didn't have the kind of leadership that those other places like Oklahoma City and Golden State had. And so then he's gone through, a couple different places of, do they know what they're doing? Do they not know what they're doing? Trying to, whatever. So now maybe Houston looks like they're on the upswing, and maybe he can help them.
Well, they're definitely on the upswing.
Yeah.
They're the number 2 seed in the
Exactly.
West this
That's
year.
true, yeah.
I mean, they're definitely on the upswing.
Yeah, they're on the upswing.
And I think the Kevin Durant thing is not so much if he's as good. He's still pretty good. It's a contract deal. He's got a massive contract, and you want to get rid of it. And some teams are actually wanting the contract because it sets them up to be able to do more things down the road. There's a little bit of that involved too.
Well, there's also just he's very good still, and he can win them a championship in their mind with the pieces that they kept. So, I mean, this is not about like a chess move 10 years down the line. This is about winning now if you're Houston. That's why you traded away some good players to get him, and he's still very much a great scorer and a really good player. He just doesn't have another 10 years left in his legs, but he's still got a few to squeeze out in Houston. So I think it makes sense that, they would want him, and Houston was one of his spots that he laid out. San Antonio was another one. He clearly had some desire to get back to Texas, so he's back in Texas. There'll be a lot of Longhorns at his games and just Rockets fans and NBA fans in general with him now in town, and, we'll see what it does for him. But, yeah, I make it sound like he's played for 10 teams. He's only played for 5, but that's still 5 teams for like a first ballot Hall of Famer is just kind of goofy to me. I mean, that's just kind of silly and would really only happen in the NBA.
When we come back, his name, Chris Houston. We've had him on the show before. A Heisman Trophy historian. We'll also drop back into the NBA with Rafael Barlow, plus the draft coming up and more. Phil Simms at 5 on his name being attached to Morehead State University's football stadium. This is 365 Sports. Had a conversation today with Doug Furch. He and also Paul Thorpe are a part of the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement Department inside Baylor University in their umbrella, setting up special events that happen not only during football season, but also what happens as far as this summer. Coaches will tour the state of Texas, and they have all of the dates. So if you're in, for example, Dallas, Fort Worth, or in Houston or Austin or San Antonio, when Coach Aranda, et cetera, might be making a tour. Then on top of that, they're having a tailgate at the George Bush Museum, SMU campus, in that game at SMU early on in September. Those details, when they're on the road or more, and if there's any kind of a tournament situation or bowl game, they set up shop, and fans, donors, alums, etc., can find a way to get together prior to the games. It's the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement with Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe. Go to baylor.edu.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend's Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
365 Sports as we head into this 4 o'clock hour. That is Chris Houston. He covers, he is really in a lot of ways, Heisman Trophy, an historian, podcast, and so much more. And he joins us. He's been on with us for about a year ago, Chris. And the quote you put up a year ago when you were on our show, our actual quote was, the Heisman Trophy or award is the lighthouse in the storm of college football.
Yeah, it's, there's a storm brewing out there. There's conference realignment and transfer portals and all kinds of craziness, people losing their connection to the regional teams that are in their areas. And so the Heisman has stayed solid throughout all that. And that's why I called it that.
So, Chris, I see, when you look it up, there's, the lighthouse, all these different things that you called it the last time you were on our show. Why has it been able to stand the test of time, maybe over other awards so much?
Well, it started earlier than all the other awards. First of all, it started in 1935, so it had a lot of time to build up a reputation. And what's interesting, if you go back even to like the fourth or fifth winner, Davey O'Brien or Niall Kinnick, these guys were already talking about how prestigious the award was even back then, and that is because it had the veneer of the great John Heisman attached to it. Everything was done first class in New York City. And over the years, this sort of cumulative ritual of the Heisman entered the lexicon of college football, and they've done it in a way that the other awards haven't been able to do it. They've remained consistent, and of course, these players are legends.
Was there anything unique about Travis Hunter that stood out to you in his particular award-winning year?
Well, gosh, it's very rare to have someone who plays both sides of the ball, and not as a gimmick, but as a legitimate player on both sides of the ball. We've had in the past Charles Woodson, who won the award while playing primarily as a cornerback, but he was kind of moonlighting as a wide receiver, and that's what sort of gave him the novelty of being able to win the Heisman that year. This year, really, Travis Hunter, you had to go all the way back to the one platoon era, pre-1964 or 1965, are down into Division III, or Gordy Lockbaum and those guys from the 80s, to find someone who is playing, basically not leaving the field. And that was the story of Travis Hunter, about a guy who was so talented, so good on both sides of the ball. He never left the field, and that's why he won.
You mentioned for example, Charles Woodson, Tim Brown, Johnny Rogers, Rocket Ismail. Those were guys that were good at what they did on one side of the ball, but they were return specialists too, punts or kickoff returns. And that's the one thing that we never saw Travis Hunter even do, which I'm sure if he did, he probably could do that pretty well too.
I'm sure he would have been fine, but at some point you got to save the guy. You got to save the guy some knees. He's only got 2 knees. So I think probably in that situation, you don't want to overload him too much. The guy could handle both sides of the ball. But you're right. You touch on something interesting, which is that if you're a receiver, you generally have to also contribute in other ways beyond just catching the ball. And not because this is what the voters prefer or like. It's because when you are a receiver, there are ways to scheme you out of the game if you're not already returning punts and kicks. So if you're someone like Desmond Howard, who is maybe double teamed or has a safety up top, and he only catches 3 balls for 19 yards in a game, he can change the game otherwise with a punt return. But this is not something that more conventional receivers like Larry Fitzgerald was able to do. And that's why you saw Larry Fitzgerald season when he finished the runner-up to Jason White. He, at the very end of the year, I think he went up against Miami and was shut down. And there was really nothing he could do about it.
How do more defensive players without having to play offense? Like, I've always thought that Ndamukong Suh was if you're picking the best player in the country, the year that he was in the Heisman voting, that he was the best player in the country. But it's hard for a defensive tackle to separate himself when you've got Sam Bradfords and Tim Tebow's and guys like that around that are just chalking up touchdowns. But this dude is eating them away from offenses on the same side. Is that just a culture of the voters that probably won't change?
It's about metrics. It's about being able to justify your vote. You talk about most outstanding player or best player. That's a term of art. But if you can give your opinion a foundation in statistics, for example, quarterbacks, you're able to look at passing yardage, perhaps rushing yardage, completion percentage. There's a whole array of statistics. Same with running backs. There's a large number of stats that you can use. And with receivers, generally, the further away you are from the ball, from touching the ball on every play, the harder it is to win the Heisman. So until a defender or a defensive lineman, for example, like Ndamukong Suh, until you can really expand the universe of the metrics and statistics that define what that player does in a game and what their impact is on a game, then you're really talking about a lot of nebulous accolades that you see all the time where they'll say something like, oh, he had 8 sacks on the year, but that's because he was double and triple teamed on every play. Well, he probably wasn't, double and triple teamed on every play. And how do you quantify that, right? So it just, until you get to the point where defensive players have a wider array of metrics by which to measure and compare and to capture the imagination of voters, then you're going to have it be a term of art and just have people doing it like Justice Potter said, you know it when you see it.
Just spitballing here, Chris, but how much do you think realignment plays into what used to be very regional voting? And I know there's still like the regional breakdown, but now you have guys in California who are watching more Big Ten because now USC and UCLA and Washington and Oregon are there and so on and so forth. Do you see that realignment kind of having an impact and opening the scope of making it maybe less regionalized than it was previously?
That's a great question. It's probably too early to tell what the impact is on that because it's really only been one season of that. But in theory, you would have more people in the Midwest seeing more players on the West Coast from Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, and vice versa. So it seems like that would certainly have a potential impact on the votes going forward. And I think certainly giving more people the chance to have an interest in a game is, it's like one thing to look at a game and kind of have it on the background or kind of to be watching in a sort of dispassionate way. And it's another way to actually know something about one of the teams playing or to have maybe a rooting interest in it and then see them play another team. And then along the way, you see one of those players on that other team and you think, wow, that guy's pretty good.
There are a ton of voters. I'll never forget when Robert Cessna reached out to me and asked if I would be a Heisman voter. And there's a lot of responsibilities with that, and it's been an honor to be a part of it. How many is too many?
Well, the number of voters has fluctuated over the years. It's, at one point, I think it got to as high as like 1,200 voters. Right now, it's around 828, and it fluctuates depending on the year, just one or two votes. But I do think that one thing the Heisman is looking towards is trying to perhaps whittle down the number of voters down to a more core constituency of people who really follow the games. So I think that's something that's perhaps, on the burner for them, but it's just something they haven't gotten around to doing just yet.
Chris Houston with us, Heisman. You do a podcast, and it's
I do the podcast. I do the official Heisman Trophy podcast.
You are with the Heisman. You're a historian. You do the podcast. How much fun is that? And all of the names and players and history and tradition you have to pull from.
It's pretty amazing. The number of incredible historic players that I've interviewed, whether it's Ricky Williams or Tim Brown or just Travis Hunter last year, Jaden Daniels the year before. I'm interviewing the best of all time, not just current players, but former players, former winners, I should say. And it's really remarkable. Barry Sanders, right? It's like I had a good 45 minutes with Barry Sanders, and just getting the chance to really delve into his 1988 season, which I followed very closely as a senior in high school at the time. But I still remember it. Luckily, I have a steel trap memory for some of it. So that comes in handy when you're talking to some of these all-time greats, and you can just really say, hey, what happened on that one play? And it tends to disarm them a bit. But it's really fun for anybody out there who is interested in college football, Heisman Trophy in particular, but we also cover a lot of general college football issues, and we'll do more so this year. The official Heisman Trophy podcast, you can find it on all streaming networks.
Chris, do you have a favorite Heisman Trophy winner, like personally, that just meant something more to you?
I mean, I was an SC guy growing up, so I think at the time my real first exposure to the Heisman was Charles White. In 1979, I was in third grade, and then later, 2 years later, was Marcus Allen, and those were the first seasons where I really remember like memorizing the statistics and trying to figure out whether this person was going to win or not. And I think that was sort of my formative years of the Heisman. And later on, of course, I was working at USC in the sports information department, and Charles White used to come by my office and take water out of the sparkless water jug. So that was kind of cool.
Is that running back you based on the Heisman USC, or am I missing somebody else?
Yeah, that's USC is known as running back you because they've had 5 Heisman Trophy winning running backs. You've had Mike Garrett, O.J. Simpson, Charles White, and Marcus Allen, and also Reggie Bush, now that his trophy has been reinstated.
Did it mean something to you as a USC fan to have Reggie back in the fold officially?
I mean, at this point, when you've been working in this industry for a long time, it's the level of emotional association is probably at its lowest level in my lifetime. Yeah. So it's like, oh, okay, that's nice, but it really didn't really mean anything, deeply at this point in my career, I think.
So we brought up Travis Hunter and what he did. He just signed, by the way, his rookie contract. That was going to happen just because of timing the calendar and the fact that they have all that slotted in. Is there someone or 2 or 3? Paul brought up Ndamukong Suh. Is there 1 or 2 that got away that you felt like, just as a football fan, you thought should have won the Heisman Trophy?
Well, I think when you get past a certain point, there's any number of people who are worthy of the Heisman in a given year, right? So you hate to necessarily always pick someone out because you're saying the implication is that you're saying that the person who did win shouldn't have won. But I don't think that's necessarily the case. But when I go back and look at, last year, I thought Ashton Genty was certainly more than Heisman worthy. He had just an incredible season. Probably Marshall Faulk, the year that he finished the runner-up to Gino Torretta. Going back to 1995, you had 3 really good candidates. Eddie George won it, but Tommy Frazier is one of the great players in college football history, and it was, capping a remarkable run. He's a guy that had a lot going for him. Going over to like 1981, it was the year Marcus Allen won the Heisman, but you had Jim McMahon over at BYU doing all kinds of crazy things. And, also it's, perhaps OJ might have, should have maybe won it in 1967, the year he finished runner-up to Gary Beeman. It certainly would have been a very defensible vote to vote for OJ.
You know what's weird, Chris, is I'm 66. I remember those from 30, 40, 50 years ago more than I sometimes do from 5 years ago. Yeah. Maybe because that's when I was a young kid and everything was just saturated. I couldn't get enough information to watch it.
Well, there's more things taking our attention away now, right? So back then it was everything was fresh and it was, you had no other content to go look at. So this was the content you had. And so you tended to make the most of it.
Have you ever, the numbers of players invited? It's a TV show, so obviously there's something to do with that in the network. Has there ever been discussion about you can't have more than a certain number show up?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think next year will be the 3rd season in which the finalist is capped at 4. It's actually, there's going to be 4 finalists each year, no matter what, is what they've come up with right now. So no more 3 finalists, no more 6. It's always going to be 4 regardless. And of course, until people understand that, there's always going to be those people arguing that there should have been a 5th guy invited. But yeah, what can you do?
Well, it's like in the NCAA tournament, there's 68 teams that make it, and people want 76 now, or in the college football playoff. All right, I know this is not a controversial question, but it does include the regular season only, and especially now because there might be 4 games played, it would drag it into at least early to mid-January. Has that ever been on the table to not stop it after the regular season's over?
I think that this is something that has always been up for question, especially amongst people who really care about the sport and how best to present it. But I think that with the advent of the playoffs and then the expansion of the playoffs, like you mentioned, I think we're further away from that ever happening, because when you're looking at comparing, when you're trying to do is compare apples and apples, and you have players who play out the regular season. Some of them, a few of them might have a conference championship game, but for the most part, players are playing 12, 13, maybe 14 games before the Heisman voters say that's the guy, right? But if you get into, the 3 playoff games, right? Or a bowl and whatever, you start to, voters have recency bias, right? It's like Vince Young had that great game against USC and the Rose. He should have won the Heisman, right? But it's like, that's just, are we we're not like cats going after looking for the fuzzball, right? It's like this idea that the last game played somehow is, the biggest mark and the most determinative thing is something the Heisman is trying to avoid. They're trying to say, this is a regular season award. Everyone pretty much gets judged as best we can. Like there's already things that some players have advantages of over others already. Let's not make it worse by, comparing this person's 18 games to this person's 12.
Well, and opt-outs too also make it.
That's right.
Would make it really hard, because if if you have a legendary season on a team that goes 8-4, look, Tim Tebow, when he won, that team wasn't the best Gator team that they had. That was actually the worst one over Tim Tebow's tenure. There would be a sense now that if he was draft eligible then, that he would have just gone and skipped that bowl game. So then you lose out on, if that's part of it, like now you've got a guy making a decision that's like, well, do I skip this bowl game or not because I'm up for the Heisman, and this guy's going to play 3 other bowl games? It can't, there's no balanced metric on it.
It would be bad. It would be bad to have a situation where someone had a remarkable season and we were having the Heisman after their bowl game, and the guy's like, well, I might be drafted, so I'm not going to play. That would really stink. I mean, the only thing comparable to that situation that we really can't rectify is the fact that Army and Navy traditionally play on the second Saturday in December, which is the day that the Heisman is awarded. So in theory, you could have a quarterback like Blake Horvath, for example, the quarterback for Navy, who is coming off a really strong season. And if, that Army Navy game at the end, what if he's up for the award and that game could make or break it? Well, the votes will already be in at that point.
How much of what you did in media relations and working at USC prepare you for what you do now?
It was huge. My first couple of years at USC, I was like a lot of these SIDs when they're first starting out, just kind of feeling your way, not really knowing what your purpose was, trying to keep your head down. And it was in 2002 when I saw up close Carson Palmer's Heisman Trophy winning season, and I had some ideas about it that I was sort of testing or that I was formulating. And then I tested it the next year privately in 2003, the year Jason White beat out Larry Fitzgerald. And it was in 2004 that I started sort of writing about it and setting out these kind of standards I had for what influences the voters, because you see a lot of discussion about the Heisman. It almost always focuses on which player, this and that, but it rarely discusses what do voters actually look for. I see Arch Manning is being portrayed as the Heisman front runner. I don't really think that's a very good pick right now, because it assumes that voters just go for name, and that's part of it, but it's not all of it. So I think that if more people thought about what do Heisman voters look for when they're choosing a Heisman Trophy winner, then we would be able to then look at the field and say, oh yeah, this guy is a better shot than this other guy.
Did you or do you have any input on who appears in the Heisman House commercials?
Nope, none at all. That's purely, that's all Nissan's doing. They pretty much run that. But I do think that there is, some guys that the Heisman tries to suggest or rotate in there. But no, nothing to do with it. Wish I did.
They're missing out on Jameis. I mean, the funniest Heisman Trophy winner of recent memory would be in the RG3's our buddy. He's great in those things. Everybody's really good in them.
Yeah.
But I think they're missing out on Jameis not being in there.
That's a good point. I might have to do a segment this year on who are the funniest Heisman winners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there one player, last question, Chris, again, thanks, appreciate your time.
Sure.
Is there one Heisman or even finalist that just was someone completely opposite of who you thought they might be, or someone you just like, man, this is as good as it gets?
It wasn't because I thought he was the opposite, but talking to Dylan Gabriel last year at the Heisman, wow, that kid was very impressive. I mean, he's been in college football for 7 years or 6 years it was. He spent a long time in college football. But I was able to ask him about a lot of things I've been wondering, namely about how are offenses affected by the fact that you might see a quarterback going and several other players shifting teams from one year to the next. One of the things that Pete Carroll told me when I worked at USC was that it's very easy to shift your defense in season, or with offense, you have to have it all done. You can't redo your offense. So it's basically, you bring in a quarterback and I was surmising to him that the reason for, if you look at the kind of the offensive production in college football, it's kind of leveled off these last 2 or 3 years. It's everyone runs the spread now. So everyone's, there's not as much surprise anymore. And then you compound that sort of that defensive familiarity with these quarterbacks and other players who are, popping over from one roster to another, which means that you've got to learn the system. You got to learn the offense. You got to get familiar with your teammates. You got to feel comfortable. Maybe you've got a fresh mill in your pocket and maybe you're not as focused as you might normally be. Maybe you're having more fun. So it's like, these are all elements that I think have contributed to sort of like this struggle of offenses lately. I mean, you look at Ohio State last year, they had talent galore, but they had some times where they looked pretty clunky, and so I asked Dylan Gabriel about that and he's like, yeah, that's exactly it. And so, just like his sort of like self-awareness to sort of, he's been following this and it's very interesting to him. So he's a very interesting guy to talk to.
We started out by saying, you talked about how you're the trophy is the lighthouse to college football with all the madness. Will anything, if you go to a super conference setup in the future, will that affect who is eligible for the Heisman Trophy?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's going to officially determine who is eligible. Officially anybody can win the Heisman, whether you're backup, a third string left tackle on an NAIA team, theoretically that person can get a Heisman vote. So I don't think there's going to be anything official, but I think de facto the result of that is going to be, if you have super conferences with all these, all the elite teams getting all the elite players and playing only against each other or mostly against each other, it just stands to reason you're going to see most of the Heisman winners come from those conferences.
Thank you, man. Chris, appreciate your time. He is the podcast, the Heisman Trophy podcast. Chris Houston, with us. He joined us a year ago, with us again today, and hopefully at some point during, as we get into the end of October and the football season, the regular season or so, conference season in November, early December. When we come back, Rafael Barlow, Emery Winter will interview him on the OKC Thunder up, winning the NBA championship, his thoughts about the draft and more. And this is 365 Sports.
Alan Samuels House of Travel is a full-service travel agency with highly experienced travel consultants plus support staff with over a combined 150 years in the travel business. They are ready to take care of any travel situation for you, your family, and your business, and with the kind of knowledge to complete a seamless itinerary trip start to finish. They will search for the best deal to accommodate your budget, from air to cars, ship to shore, hotel, and even meeting space. Name a destination and they've been there. They know the places to go, and international and missionary travel is one of their unique specialties. Alan Samuels House of Travel, celebrating 50 years in business. Call Connie, Sherry, Linda, or Bambi at 254-776-2560 or find them on Facebook or at houseoftravelwaco.com. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
We got to know Rafael Barlow last week, NBA analyst, and what a week it's been since then, including OKC winning Game 7 last night for their first ever World Championship. Rafael, the draft around the corner too, and so much more to get to. But there was the injury with Halliburton. But this OKC Thunder team, weren't they pretty much the best from start to finish, and just kind of validated that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's unfortunate that some are going to say, well, they won because of injuries. But like you said, they were best from start to finish, and they actually exceeded my own expectations. I thought they needed another year. I knew they were young. I knew they were talented, but I thought they needed one more year to climb, to get to the mountaintop. But here they are. I mean, and they look like they're going to be here to stay, unless the apron has other thoughts.
Yeah, but they are, but they're set up to kind of navigate that, aren't they?
Yeah, they do have a lot of picks. It's going to get expensive. I think Gilgeous-Alexander can sign for like a contract that could pay him like $80 million. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, they both are in the same class. They're probably going to get max extensions. And then after that, I think that's when their role players are going to get expensive. We see it happen all the time. You win, people value your role players, but they do have a lot of picks. So they just are going to have to replace those guys that played a key role with younger guys on rookie contracts.
What were your thoughts overall about Indiana started well last night, obviously, and then the injury, but still Oklahoma City was probably going to wear them down, or you would think. What were your overall thoughts about what the Pacers were able to accomplish this year and get to that point where they were right on the verge of winning it?
They exceeded expectations. I mean, they were a team that a lot of people weren't talking about, maybe because it's a smaller market team, but they definitely exceeded expectations. And it's just unfortunate to have their season and even next season just be heavily impacted by Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles. But if you're Indiana, you have to be happy with what you saw. And it's just crazy to me to watch a Game 7 of an NBA Finals, and it was like TJ McConnell ISO plays and key stretches of the game. Like, I don't think that was on anybody's bingo card.
This has been a brutal playoffs for injuries extending into next year, hasn't it? I mean, looking at some of the star power that's taken a hit, just even looking at 2026.
Yeah, and I'm sure you've probably seen like the stuff on social media that Damian Lillard, Jason Tatum, and Halliburton all wear number 0. They all have the same injury, so that's pretty crazy. But I mean, I think there's some teams like Philadelphia. They were injured last year who have to come into this offseason thinking like, we have a shot at going to the finals next year. Boston's going to be down. Indiana's going to be without Halliburton. The Bucks are going to be depleted. So I think there's some teams that, I mean, they're not rejoicing that someone got hurt, but they have to feel good about their chances due to injuries and parity.
Yeah, that's one thing I think that maybe, gets lost in the shuffle of there's a lot of people lamenting the fact that there's not a team from New York, LA, or Chicago, in the finals. You're like, well, nobody's canceled their NBA TV deal because there was Oklahoma City and Indiana. The basketball is as good as it can possibly be right now because of the parity around the league. I mean, there are teams that are maybe in the top 15 of the draft that could see themselves hop into the playoffs next year and make a run because it's so balanced.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I just think the issue is a lot of people grew up watching dynasties. So if you grew up in the 80s, it was Boston and LA. If you grew up watching basketball in the 90s, you saw the Michael Jordan era. The 2000s between the Spurs and the Lakers. And I think we've had, 7 consecutive finals where there's been a new winner. So parity is actually new and different for the NBA. I mean, even back before that, I was way, way too young, but my dad used to tell me the Celtics, like, you just knew they were going to win every single year. So it's obviously different than NFL, where parity has been part of the NFL for the last, I guess you can count the Patriots run, but you feel like in the NFL has always been at least somewhat parity. But the NBA just seems like it's been the same teams for the last 30 years prior to, I guess, the last 7.
So as much as the Pacers are just miserable, and rightfully so, still no NBA title coming so close to this, the Thunder have been kind of knocking at the door a little while. It just depends on what year and how loud it was, right? But armed with a boatload of draft picks, all this maneuvering, just can you speak to the job that Sam Presti has done with this franchise and just the way this team has been embraced, the big payoff there for those OKC faithful have welcomed them with open arms, and obviously they're now so beloved there.
Yeah, he's just done an incredible job of, making the right moves and then acquiring picks. He took a beating for the situation after the James Harden deal, where I think they offered him like 59, but Houston offered him 82 million, and seeing like Westbrook and Harden and Kevin Durant all go on and win MVPs. And so I think that he benefited by being in a smaller market like OKC. I don't know if you're in New York, the fans are going to be that patient, especially if you've had 3 guys who you had in your system go on and win MVPs. But it's just a testament to Oklahoma City's ownership group. They trusted the vision, they trusted the plan, and now they're benefiting from it.
Who would have ever thought that we still don't think Harden and Westbrook have not won a world title?
Yep.
They've won everything else. They've been on the Olympic teams, gold medals and all that. But neither one of them, Durant's got his 2 and he was traded. We'll discuss that with you. But neither one of those, Westbrook or Harden, have won a world title, no matter where they played.
Yeah. Harden came close. Well, he got to the conference finals, but he just happened to be at his prime in the West when Golden State was at their strongest. So to me, he was a guy that I think he got to the conference finals twice and lost to the Warriors both times. But I'm a big Harden fan. I'm a Harden apologist, even though he has his struggles in the playoffs. But it's just wrong time. And sometimes you have to be lucky. You have to be healthy. And the year that Houston had their best opportunity to beat Golden State was when Chris Paul hurt his hamstring.
What do you think as the draft approaches on Thursday is the biggest news we're going to see now that the KD thing is essentially done?
Where Ace Bailey falls, where he goes. I've heard, and even just from my own opinion, I knew, like, once I saw that he declined to work out for Philadelphia, the first thing that came to my mind is this is strategic. And I ended up talking to some people, and they're on the same page. It's a better situation for Ace. Philadelphia, like I mentioned, could be in win now mode. And I think that Ace's camp has some preferred landing spots, and they're willing to take the PR hit and the financial loss to get to the spot where they feel that is most comfortable for him, his long-term success, his ability to play minutes, and also set himself up for the big second contract.
Well, his name's been mentioned a couple times now. Let's get into the KD trade. And he's on there, the panel there at Fanatics Fest in New York, and word comes down, and it was cool to see like that initial reaction, especially from the crowd. But your thoughts on the mega deal, sending him to Houston, and just all that's involved, and obviously how this works out for Houston and KD in the long run.
I like it. I like it a lot. Houston was a team that, even though they were the number 2 seed, I don't think everybody believed in them being ready. But now they have a legitimate closer. They have some offensive firepower. They are going to be able to defend. Coach Ime Udoka demands you to defend. But I think KD gives them a dynamic that they were missing, which is a closer, an efficient scorer. He gives them more length. And I think the shooting is going to be very, very important for Houston's offense.
Raphael, we brought this up. This is his 5th team. He's one of the best players ever. He's won the world titles, but he's been traded a lot. Is that more of he still has value, so people want him because he's just above, he takes you over the top, or because of his contract?
I just think it's the era that we live in. I mean, Shaq played on a bunch of teams. I mean, people forget Shaq played in Cleveland and Boston and Phoenix. So I just think it's the new era. The days of the Dirks and Kobe's is going to be rare. And I think for Durant, I think that it's just weird. Like, he had everything in Golden State, wasn't happy, wanted to do his own thing in Brooklyn. That situation completely fell apart. Then Phoenix was a disaster, but teams still want him. He at 37 years old, I don't think there's anybody in the history of the NBA off the top of my head that has commanded a lottery pick, a young player in Jalen Green, and just all the draft capital that the Suns received for a 37-year-old. So that means people still value him and how much he can still play.
I brought this up earlier. Paul countered with Jalen Brunson was a second-round pick. There's a lot of guys that have been second-round picks that are very, very good, Hall of Famers, I'm sure. But it was interesting to me as I'm reading the trade that they have 5 second-round picks being sent.
Yeah.
5. I mean, it's like
monopoly money.
Yeah, it's weird. 1 or 2 second-round picks, are those really? I mean, they must have some value, but is that more like just trading numbers you don't need?
Yeah, no, I think the second round picks have value. I mean, the Jalen Brunsons and the Manu Ginobilis and Nikola Jokic's, I mean, those are extremely, extremely rare. But I think, maybe you can move multiple second rounders up for a first round pick. Like, for example, this year, the Hornets are picking at 33 and 34. Maybe there's a team that doesn't want to pay the guaranteed salary for a first round pick, and they decide, all right, we'll trade down to get to 33 and 34 because we can get these contracts we can get these players for cheaper, and we don't think there's that much of a difference between pick 25 and 35. So I think there could be a situation where all of those second round picks could be packaged to move up for a first round pick or 2.
Don't shoot the messenger, okay, Paul. But with Halliburton's injury, and Craig mentioned some that are out now for a lot of, if not all of last year, was that ever anything that Dallas was worried about with Doncic and some of the injuries he had with his calf, et cetera, that could lead to a bad injury?
I never thought of it from that perspective, but I did think of it from the perspective of Luka took his time. He didn't rush back. And maybe that's because it was the regular season and not the playoffs, but he seems like the smartest of all of those guys that had the calf strain because he missed 5-6 weeks. I mean, I think that I know he got hurt on Christmas Day, and then the trade was in February, I believe. So he took his time and he was able to finish out the season. So I don't know if the Mavs were thinking that there was fear that he could tear his Achilles, but I just think it was smart on him to not rush back.
We didn't ask you about the Magic's big trade as well. Do you think that bringing in Desmond Bane, that makes them you said the East is pretty open. They're very young, and they have almost seemingly kind of, I don't want to say stumbled, but long years of irrelevance have kind of fallen into this now. Nice young talent, and now they bring in a guy who's a grinder.
Yeah, I think it was definitely worth the swing, even though they gave up a lot of draft capital. And I was actually surprised that he was even available and on the market. But he fits what they've been missing. They've been missing outside shooting, and they've been looking for that third star to complement Paolo Banchero, that is, and Franz Wagner. And I thought that Orlando was good last year. They just had a situation where they had 2 of their best players miss time with a weird oblique injury. It's already a unique injury, but having 2 players on the same team miss time with a similar injury, I thought that was pretty rare, but I think Bane helps them out a lot.
So it'll be Flag Day for the Dallas Mavericks. I think everybody is banking on that. And I think I asked you last time, just kind of the fit, but what do you foresee as sort of the mixture there with Flag and melding him into Anthony Davis and eventually Kyrie, and just how all that works? And what will be missing, do you think, from Dallas in terms of what they need to still kind of put together to put this on the proper path for Cooper Flag immediately?
Yeah, point guard play is going to be to me like the biggest hurdle, at least short term, until Kyrie comes back. And then you don't even know how healthy he's going to be when he returns. The part that I can't figure out is who does Dallas start, right? I mean, you figure Klay Thompson has to be in a starting five. PJ Washington was a huge part of their success when they went to the NBA Finals last year. Anthony Davis wants to play the 4, and Derek Lively's going to play the 5. So with that being said, if you throw Cooper Flag in that lineup, who's the point guard? So I'm trying to figure out who's the person that's the odd man out of the starting group. I imagine Flag is going to start, but I think that he fits in because based off of everything that Nico Harrison said after the Luka Doncic trade, defense, and Flag to me is the best defender in this draft class. But he's got some offensive game too, so I don't want to make it seem like it's one-sided. But that's my concern is who comes off the bench.
Good news is Oklahoma City won a world championship. And because of our coverage of trying to see what was going on, we got to get to know you, Raphael. You've been great. We appreciate it. You're not done with us. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yep. Anytime you want me on, let me know.
Raphael Barlow, NBA draft consultant and NBA analyst with us on the Thunder wrapping up their world championship against Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of happy for Emory Winter, I guess, begrudgingly happy. No, I am happy. He deserves some good news, and it's always fun to see people get to celebrate their teams. And we just had that double dip this weekend of Garrett with LSU and Emory with Oklahoma City, which is nice because we had a stretch there where all our teams basically sucked, I feel like. And we had the Rangers World Series a couple years ago, but like college football season this past year was really bad for almost everybody.
Smokey's team broke their bowl drought. So.
No, it's a huge adrenaline.
Yeah. So
sickening. I mean, even that was sickening.
But like everybody barely made a bowl game, or like we're not even close to making a bowl game in Florida State's case.
Yeah.
So yeah, good to have like some of that reverse, I guess, going on where we're getting some celebration rather than the constant deflation.
Part of the thing I think I've now reinvested myself into being an NBA fan is that the Spurs have the most intriguing young basketball player like ever because he's 7'4" and runs like a gazelle and can shoot threes and all this crazy stuff. And so I'm excited about the potential there because my other teams keep disappointing me.
Yep.
The Cowboys have done it now for 30 years. The Red Sox are turning into that. I'm watching, like I'm in a very small Venn diagram of Red Sox and Cowboys fans, and I see it happening. It's the same thing. They had their glory, and now they just want to sell shirts.
Sell a lot of them. That's why they would be worth $15 billion if they were on the open market. Got him, Garrett? John Tulte joins us from CBS Sports.
Eli.
Oh, my God. I'm sorry. That's at 5. I'm way ahead of myself. Eli Hoff joins us. He wrote a great article. Eli, sorry about that. He and I traded some text messages at the end of last week and couldn't make it on with us, but glad we got him today. You wrote an article, got a lot of buzz on what Missouri has been doing with spending the NIL, and I mean spending it well. What has been the reaction from that article?
Yeah, there's been a lot of folks who are interested in this, partly because NIL, even though we all know there's a lot of money in this ecosystem and going out there from schools to collectives to athletes, we hadn't really had it pinned down like this before, but we know now Mizzou has spent $31.7 million on NIL in the last year. We know $10 million of that came this past month as they're getting ready for the House settlement to take effect on July 1st and revenue sharing to become a thing. So this is it's gotten a lot of buzz because we now have just one, but a concrete data point when we're talking about NIL.
Well, it is. It's very nebulous out there to even find like, oh, this guy's getting $8 million to come here, and you're like, is he really getting $8 million or what is that? What were this? Was it more or less money than you thought you'd find when you finally got the records?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'd say it was about actually what I expected. These numbers account for 90 to 95% of what all Mizzou athletes were getting. There are some deals, like Luther Burden, a star player is going to have some of his own third-party deals that are different. But this is about what I expected because it takes out some of those crazy figures. But you realize that a lot of these guys are making six-figure salaries to play college sports at this point. So I wouldn't say I was too surprised, but some of that is because I struggle to believe when you hear somebody getting $8 million or you see just some of the zeros that come after this. I struggle to believe those numbers in the first place. So maybe I'm in the minority with that.
Eli, was there anything surprising going past football and men's basketball? Because, the third or fourth sports can always be kind of different depending on the school and the money that's going those directions. So was there anything unique or interesting there for you?
Yeah, for me, just with this being Mizzou's NIL data specifically, it was that baseball was third. If you take a generic SEC school, that wouldn't necessarily be surprising. Baseball, as we saw over the weekend with LSU, right? It's a big deal in that conference. Mizzou has not been good in baseball. It hasn't been a priority, but it was the third highest NIL budget of any sport at Mizzou. So that caught me by surprise just because I keep hearing things here about how little investment there is in Mizzou baseball. A lot of that has to do with the stadium. The stadium is not good and not up to an SEC standard. But in terms of NIL, Mizzou has put the third most of any of its sports in NIL. So that caught me a little by surprise.
So with the story I saw a lot of people we've had on this show, a lot of people saying, hey, this is a deep dive that nobody else has done. So what was this, just a Freedom of Information Act that you were able to send to Missouri?
Yeah, this came from in Missouri, it's called the Sunshine Law, but yeah, Freedom of Information Act, public records. The documents I was able to get were invoices sent to Mizzou by its NIL collective. That's the way it was set up here, that every month the collective would send along an invoice that said, here's how much we're paying athletes for this month to get that money. And in some months it was even broken down by sport. So that was really helpful. It was just PDF pages. It's kind of old fashioned. And then I compiled that into a spreadsheet, but yeah, this was a win for public records.
Did you ever get a copy of an email from Missouri back to the collective that went, what the hell are we doing? What are we spending on who?
I didn't get one of those, but I didn't ask for them either. And if you don't ask for it, they're not going to give it to you in the public records request. So maybe that's the next one. Maybe that's the next document I got to get.
$15 million. He threw 2 touchdown passes or something.
Eli, what do you think that given the information you have now and given the situation that we have with the house settlement, does that change that they're going to spend $31 million or so? I mean, they'll have to take 15 of it from their revenue sharing, but does it still mean, do they think it's actually going to go down?
Yes. So I'm of the belief that it will go down, partly because when we look at the $10 million that was spent this month, for example, that strikes me as sort of a one-time expense, because it's this one-time window where we're going from NIL to revenue sharing. And so you have the chance to front load these contracts. That's not going to be the case anymore. So I think you're going to see the number come down a little bit. Mizzou's going to max out revenue sharing like every other SEC school is. What this tells me is it's going to be difficult for Mizzou and a lot of these schools to get those true third-party NIL deals that will go through the clearinghouse. Knowing that $31 million accounts for 90 to 95% of what Mizzou has, we can do the math in our heads there and know that means there's another $3 million, give or take, in true NIL, and I'm not sure how that stacks up in the SEC. So it gives me maybe more questions than answers about how this will work under revenue share, but I do feel pretty confident that it won't be $31 million just because so much of this is this one-off front loading that a lot of schools are apparently doing, but now we can concretely say Mizzou is.
Missouri was pretty good last year, and they've been, they don't get the attention of Alabama, Georgia, now Texas, LSU, et cetera. But they were really, really pretty good. Where are they now as far as a program with what they have coming back, what they've been able to do to fill the gaps during the transfer portal time, and even what they have coming in from the high school?
This is going to be a challenging season for Eli Drinkwitz and company because it's the quintessential challenge of college sports. How do you replace talent that left? So Mizzou is replacing starters at almost every skill position player from last year. That's starting quarterback, the top 2 running backs, top 3 wide receivers, replacing a couple spots on the offensive line. That's really difficult to do, but that's what you have to do in college sports. So a lot of it, in my eyes, comes down to Bo Perbula, the transfer from Penn State. He was Drew Aller's backup last year. He's expected to win the starting job at Missouri. We don't really know what he's been because he's been a backup and a sort of running quarterback for the Nittany Lions. So that's the question there. No Missouri team has ever won 10 games 3 seasons in a row. Mizzou's done it back-to-back years now. The challenge is going for 3. Eli Drinkwitz has been pretty upfront that there's a real challenge with trying to do something that hasn't been done before at a university, and that's what it's going to be. The schedule is favorable, but the situation will be a test for sure.
I have a question for you. Missouri is a part of the SEC, and you know the pride, the territorial regionalization of what the SEC represents. LSU won another championship in baseball. Where does a school like Missouri fall when it comes to, I hate Alabama, Georgia, Texas, LSU, whatever, but by God, we're proud to be a part of the SEC? Because sometimes I think some of that we're proud to be a part of the SEC is to ride the coattails, but still not like who's winning.
Yeah, that's an interesting way of thinking it, and I think you see it a little bit here. Mizzou is certainly happy to be part of the SEC. That's something we hear all the time from administrators. They're working on a $250 million renovation of the football stadium here, and a lot of the reasoning for that is trying to be competitive from a facility standpoint in the SEC, but also use the privilege, with the financial privilege of being in that conference and the money that comes with it to maximize it. So maybe a little bit of a blessing and a curse there, but in terms of Mizzou fans, a lot of their loyalties are still from the old Big 8 days. So Oklahoma joining the SEC was big for Mizzou fans because that's a rival coming back in. Mizzou plays Kansas for the first time in more than a decade in football this fall, and that's a game that fans are already counting down towards. So, the animosity isn't quite there with the SEC opponents, and maybe there's a little resentment that Mizzou wants to be up there with them, but I think by and large, Mizzou's happy to be in a conference that has a lot of money and has a lot of success going around right now.
Mizzou, Kansas. Whoop, we lost him. Up there you go. Mizzou, Kansas. What's bigger, football or basketball? I don't even think I have to ask that question, but which one's bigger?
It's basketball. There's been some good football games over the year, but that's a basketball. Excuse me. That's a basketball rivalry all the way. Those games have been going for the last few years. There have been the basketball games. Mizzou beat a top-ranked Kansas in December and stormed the court there. That's always going to be the bigger set of those games.
Eli, did you were you surprised? And I'm proud of yourself, too, about the article you wrote, because a lot of people could have asked for that information, and you're the one that did it, and a lot of people noticed it, too.
Yeah, of course. It's one of those things as a reporter that you want to find this stuff out, and NIL has been one of the biggest mysteries of college sports. So I've been covering Mizzou for a couple of years now, and I always wondered this. So of course, I'm glad to be able to be the one to put it out there, because this is a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of donors' money going around, and folks should know where that's going and what this looks like. So yeah, certainly glad to get it out there, but I'm even more glad that people actually care, because I could just be a nerd looking at this stuff in my free time, but everybody likes it.
It was a job well done. My favorite part of once you posted the story was when somebody asked Grok about the spending per sport, and your response, thank God, because I love this, or you could click on the link. Yeah, I noticed that. Good for you to say that. Thanks for your time, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Eli Hoff from the St. Louis Post-Dispatch on the story, breaking it down by the penny into what Missouri was spending with the $31 million, where it was going. And also, yes, a lot of that now, as a lot of schools are doing, between now and the start of 1st of July with the House settlement and revenue sharing. When we come back, Phil Simms played at Morehead State. Most people probably think about him as a quarterback that was a part of Super Bowl championships with the Giants, or his TV analyst work. But he's about to be honored. His alma mater, Morehead State, he's given back to them quite a bit. His name's about to be on their football stadium. Phil Simms next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, and the employee pricing days continue. 2025 Ram, $1,500. Laramie, up to $16,000 off MSRP, or 1.9% financing for 72 months. It's your choice. Also, Ram 3500 Cummins Diesel 4x4, $52,990. Jeep Compass 4x4s, $24,995. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, with trade values, top trade values, financing available, and incentives available. Employee pricing continues through the month of June. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Baylor alumni are more than 160,000 strong. When we all join hands to support our university, we don't just move the needle, we move mountains. Working together, we create life-changing opportunities for students on the field, in the classroom, in the laboratory, and in life for generations to come. So get connected, get involved. Learn how at baylor.edu/alumni.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Penny Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Penny Clinic Waco and reach out to the Penny Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pennycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports. Enjoying the show? Hit the like button and subscribe.
Appreciate those of you who are watching us, however you are. YouTube, of course, 365 Sports, Twitter, and other particular venues or avenues as well. We're now joined by 2-time Super Bowl champion, former Morehead State quarterback, and longtime analyst when it comes to network TV. I reached out to Phil Simms when I saw the story that Paul shared with us about Morehead State naming him to the stadium. He called me. He's on. Phil, thank you very much for your time. What does this mean to you?
Well, first off, good to be on with you guys. Sounds like you have a lot of fun. You got every avenue in the world out there trying to get a big crowd. So I admire that, and good for you. Listen, it's of course an unbelievable honor, and I really, when I say this, I mean this about Morehead State University. They gave me a full scholarship to come down there and play football. We did not do very well, but I look back on everything, being there, what it did for my life and my family's life, that I played 4 years. And I took every snap, I think, in those 4 years. That was great experience. Didn't translate the wins too often for us, but all those snaps and everything. And then I was truly kind of ready to go in the NFL just because I got to throw and be part of an offense for 4 straight years.
Again, you got drafted in the first round, Phil, but you had to fight your way through so many games. How much did that prepare you in maybe a different way than, say, someone like, Tua or someone who just won nonstop has to step in and maybe deal with the fact that their team isn't good right away?
It's hard to answer that. I always just say the same thing. Look, I just played, the NFL. I guess I caught their attention really in my sophomore year. They were down looking at one of our players, and a couple scouts says, "Hey, what grade's the quarterback in?" And somebody says he's a sophomore, and he goes, "Oh, well, we'll be back here next year and the following year." So, I always tell these stories a little bit. I'll make it quick. I don't know how many pro days I had at Morehead State University. A lot. And every coach that came in there to throw it. What do you want to see, coach? We want to see you let it go. Okay, that was my forte. Okay, you want to see it? I'm going to do it. And then Bill Walsh comes in, throwing, and he goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Is this what you want to see?" He goes, "No. I want to see something that's pretty. You're just throwing it too hard and whatever." And, every time I kept throwing it a little softer, he goes, "Softer." And then finally I throw one, hell, I lob it. He goes, "Oh, that was beautiful." And, so what a difference he was, and I don't know how I got to the subject, from what everybody else wanted to see. It was the exact opposite of Bill Walsh. And, he told me he was going to draft me. I believed him. But I was already gone by the time they drafted, and he had to settle for Joe Montana. Poor Bill Walsh.
I read that story. But, I mean, my God, you ended up winning a couple of Super Bowls. You played for, 15 years with the Giants, all in New York, and had yourself a heck of a career. When Walsh talks football and he talks quarterbacks, could there be a better, compliment to somebody coming out of college than him?
No, it was great, because I knew his career in the pros, where he coached in college, what he did. I'll never forget. He said to me, "Look, you come, you're going to play as a rookie. You're going to throw for more yards than anybody in the league. You're going to complete more passes and touchdowns and none of." And I'm sitting there looking at him. He goes, "Well, you believe me, right?" And I go, "Sure, coach." I mean, I don't know, but that was kind of his thing to do. And it was great. He taught me in that little session that day something really good or great, and I really never put it into play for myself until many years later when I quit trying to throw the damn thing. You didn't have to throw them all so hard. And, I had guys complain about it sometimes. And when I got in more rhythm and just relaxed and threw more or threw the football, it was much better, more accurate, and had more success when I played that way.
Is that almost like a young pitcher who comes in who can throw at 90-something miles an hour, and then all of a sudden he eventually learns how to pitch?
Yeah, 100%. That's a good analogy. What is that? Bull Durham, Nuke Lelouch. I mean, I want to throw heat. But the good thing is you learn to throw with rhythm as you stay in the league, and you realize it's timing and all these other things. But, 4 or 5 times every single game, even in today's world, you got to step on the gas. And a lot of times that's what separates winning and losing for the quarterback having success or not. You got to – I'm still a big believer in that. Arm strength is not overrated. We just don't rate it when somebody throws one of those missiles 20 yards down the field into that big completion. No, we just go, well, he only completed 63% and, whatever. But the arm strength comes in handy for every quarterback in the league 4 or 5 times a game in big situations.
What did Bill Parcells becoming the head coach of the Giants mean for you personally, not only as a player, but just as a leader on the team and the things that developed after he took over and changed the culture there?
Well, listen, he came in 1983. Ray Perkins left to go to the University of Alabama. Bill Parcells at that time did not like me. And it just, no matter what I did, I was not going to be the starting quarterback for him at opening day in 1983. He had Scott Bruner. I always heard, well, you're just too strong and opinionated, Sims, and that's what's hurting you. Well, all the coaches on the staff seemed to like me except for one. And so it didn't work out. And if you remember, this is hard to remember. It's so long ago. The Giants tried to hire head coaches to take his job. They could not get anybody to take the job. And I ran into Howard Schnellenberger years later. And he goes, the Giants asked me to take that job. And I said, yes, I did know that. He goes, Yeah, I made a big mistake. I should have took it.
That would have been right after, well, they won the national title in '83 at Miami. Would that have been about that time?
Yeah, it would have been the season of 1984. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want to answer it. So Bill Parcells, that 3-12-1 season in '83, I was not part of it really because I got hurt. And but the following year, he was Bill Parcells. I'll never forget that off season. Now I know he has to go with me, and we're connected. And he told me once, Tim, if I survive this is still going on, all this looking for a new head coach.
Mm-hmm.
If I survive it, we're going to do it my way. And he was that guy from that '84 season all the way through 1990. I mean, tough. Oh my gosh, he was tough. And he wasn't afraid to light you up in front of the team and fans or whatever. And you know what was great about it? Athletes always think this, Coach, just tell me the truth. Do you really want to know the truth? Well, Bill would tell you the truth, and he never sugarcoated it either. So, but listen, I talk about him all the time because we won 2 Super Bowls, really should have won more.
Mm-hmm.
All players, but damn, we had some good teams that didn't win it. And I think about him all the time just because he changed my life.
Phil, that time period, I want to get back to Morehead State and what they're doing and what you're doing with them. But that time in the NFC East must have been just the Cowboys were in and out at that time. They were pretty good. Then they started to slip. Washington with Joe Gibbs. Philadelphia was good. I mean, if you won the NFC East, it almost as if, other than the 49ers, you were probably going to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, listen, it was what's the word? It was killer's row there. Where are we playing this week? Oh, in Washington. Oh, going down to Dallas still was tough, even though they kind of went into a slide for a few years. And the Eagles, I mean, man, I had a personal relationship with Reggie White. So it was unbelievable. It was rough and tough, and you are so right. Between a few teams and the San Francisco 49ers, it was domination there for quite a few years with a small group of teams.
I can think of at least, like, if I had an hour, I could rattle off one thing a minute that I would rather do rather than get tackled by Reggie White one time.
Yeah, listen, him and I had an unbelievable relationship. He liked me a lot. He always said, man, I wish you could play. I want to be on the team with you. And he was really great that way. Now, when the game started, he had no second thoughts. He run me over like nothing. And one time, he hit me so hard the first 2 plays of the game, and he's standing over me. And I say to my right tackle at the time, I won't call him, I said, Carl, is this going to go on all night? And Reggie White goes, that's right. He had a little Muhammad Ali in him. This is going to go on all night. And I said something really vulgar to him. He's a minister. And I let him have it as I'm sitting on the ground. And, man, he made me pay for that thought coming out of my mouth. Oh, my gosh. But he would sack me along with Jerome Brown and hit me. Oh, my gosh. And they would literally pick me up by my armpits and slap me on the rear end and go, come on, hang in there now. And I just go, are they making fun of me, or do they really like me? I didn't know, but really it was the opposite. They liked the fact that, I didn't complain when they knocked the crap out of me, and they would help me up. So pretty great. Isn't that pitiful? Those are great memories to me. To have a guy, Reggie White, stature, ability, and everything, knowing that he respected me. This is really true too. I said I'll never forget the year, 1988. We're playing down there. I'm in their locker room. We got, the 10-minute warning or whatever. We're going to go out there, and I'm just rocking back and forth and going, hang in there. Come on, hang in there. It wasn't about, I'm going to read the coverage. And it's about just being tough enough to hang in there, because you were going to take a damn beating no matter what happened. And I'd go get on the bus. We'd beat them. And I'd get the stat sheet, come through there. Let me see it. I'd be 11 of 23 for 95 yards and 2 interceptions. Like, no, wait, this is true. I'm not exaggerating this at all. And I would go, damn, I played a little better than I thought. I hung in. Yeah, it was good. But we were not a great matchup for the Eagles and what they did. But we were a great matchup against Washington, who dominated the Eagles dominated us. It was really that's the way it was for many years.
Did Lawrence Taylor ever hit you, or did they make sure he never did?
Hey, so many times in practice he'd run by me, he'd be walking back, he goes, "Oh God, I just want to hit you once." I go, "Yeah, but you can't. You can't, big boy." So Lawrence, I've been talking about him a lot lately, but we had a great relationship. And, sometimes after I throw an interception, a bad one, like, oh my God, that was so bad. I'd just be walking up the field and Lawrence would grab me and goes, "Listen, don't worry. We're going to get the ball back for you in better field position anyway."
Yeah. Well,
that made it a little better.
That defense was unbelievable.
Sometimes that actually happened. He would get it back.
When I was reading about the story and the naming of your Phil Simms Stadium, the part that jumped out to me among knowing it would be an unbelievable honor for you, in 2015, 36 years after leaving Morehead State to play pro football, you came back to campus for your Bachelor of University Studies degree. What was that like?
Well, that was cool. I knew I had to just get the degree and so I could at least say I graduated from college. And, it's not a good thing to say, but, I was in college, and really from the day I went into college to the day I left, I really loved playing. I wanted to win. I loved the workouts. I loved all that stuff. And I just wanted to be a pro football player. And that was my thought that never left my mind. And so it did work out. And, going down there this year, my closest friends in life are all some of the teammates I had at Morehead State. So it's going to be great to go down there. We're going to go down early. In about 2 weeks, we're going down to spend 3 or 4 days. I like to see the coach, some of the players, and do that every single year. And, I made so many great friends down there. And to this day, we're all still friends.
Morehead State, the NFL, Super Bowls with the Giants, playing for a guy like Parcells, and now having the stadium at Morehead State named after him. Phil, Paul.
Phil, I have to thank you for something that you don't even know that you had a part in. And it may seem like a little thing, but it did change my life. You and Jim Nantz at the Super Bowl, not the last time it was in New Orleans last year, but the last time it was, were shooting your some of your opens and closes and things at Drago's there in New Orleans. We were there eating dinner, and we had ordered, because I'd heard about the charwood oysters. We had ordered, some to try them, and they were fantastic. And because you guys had so much stuff to shoot that they had to keep getting this flame in the background. So if, something happened with a sound or, somebody messed up a name or whatever, you guys had to keep doing it. So they keep making these oysters, and there weren't really that many people in the restaurant. So they said, "Hey, do you guys want some more oysters? It's pretty much on Jim and Phil over here." And so they sent over all of those oysters, dozens of oysters. And that is my favorite morsel of food I've ever had in my life. Every time I go back, I go there at least twice. We were just there this year, and that is because of you and Jim Nantz. And I have to thank you immensely for bringing me so much joy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, I'm glad I had some effect. So, we were filming the show called The Iron Man, and it's make it fast. They made it called The Iron Man because we picked out, tough guys around the league and the seasons and all that. But really, it was about the trophy was a big iron, and it's a great trophy. And it's because I said to somebody once, "Hey, how do you get rid of your clothes look so good?" He goes, "Well, I send them out to get them pressed, you dummy." And they go, "Well, how do you get yours?" I go, "Well, hell, I iron my own clothes." And they thought that was when you're one of 8 children, you learn to do everything for yourself. And that was me. And we were taught I iron my own clothes. Even to this day, I still iron clothes. So, some things never leave you that you learned as a child, and that's one of them for me.
What are you work with Nance forever. He's an icon for what he does, and he's still a part of broadcasting, starting to back away a little bit. What was it like? How much of a consummate professional was he?
Oh, he's just probably what you envision and think. He was an unbelievable reader. We would get stuff, whatever teams you play, they give you a packet, and there's 130 pages there. And I'm going, I'm just going, man, I don't need all this crap.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to do the game. I know everything about it. I know what system they like to do. I know their favorite plays. But Jim would read every one of those pages. And he would write, he'd pick out the ones he liked and used and stuff like that. And he worked really hard. I mean, I admired him for that. He was a hard worker, wanted to be really prepared. And they would say things in meetings. I'd just go, okay, listen, that's not true. Here's the truth of what's really going on. And he was great and going, great. We are going to hit that so hard, and we're going to shut up journalists and everybody. We were up in Green Bay on a Thursday night game, and everybody basically was telling me, you have to really get on Aaron Rodgers. And I go, why? Well, he's not playing well. I said, he's playing fine. The rest of the team stinks, and the receivers drop everything. And so the game goes, and it's rough. Nobody can get it open. I'm showing it, everything, and he just keeps driving it home more because what had been written about Aaron Rodgers was not true. They, what they were going on? Well, there's the completion percentage and all that stuff. Hey, if you hit them in the chest, you can't catch it for them. And if they can't get open, there's so many things. But as I watched all the film and did all that, I said, man, Aaron Rodgers is playing well. He just needs a little help. And that night, it was exactly like, drop passes, guys couldn't get open, couldn't protect. And we did that. It's one of my good memories where he was a great partner because he was going to make sure that got out through the TV out there, that it's not just looking at stats to determine who's good and who's not.
So you played the game, and then you broadcast the game, and analyst studio, all of that. Was that an easy transition for you?
Well, I don't know if it was easy. I think doing games when I first got out, the first time I did a game, I was like, wow, this is fast. And I was completely lost. But I caught on kind of quick. And, being on a panel at CBS, doing the CBS, pregame show, that's easy because we don't get to talk a whole lot. But I watch all the games every week. And, I said, there's a few things I got to get out. And they were really cool and usually let me get them out. And I'd be, I don't want to say taking shots, but I'd just try to correct what was real. And I always say that people would say to me, well, why do you work so much and you watch all the games and do all this? And I said, because I owe it to the players and coaches to tell the truth, not to get some bull crap. Oh, well, his quarterback rating, the QBR. When I hear QBR, I turn the station over. Shut up. And I'm so bad.
No,
but I want to know, and that's the only way. I had a neighbor here in town say to me once, I said, well, come on, Bob, you should know. He goes, how would I know, Phil? He goes, all I know is what I read in the papers and what I hear on the radio. And I said, oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And it's so even to this day, I get mad all the time watching shows, people talking. I go, God, he's talking. It's just not true. And, so I just feel like it's my obligation. And I respect the game and I respect the coaches and players. And I just want to tell the truth.
Last question, Phil, and congratulations. In October, when they probably peel off this big, large tarp or whatever it is, and your name is on the stadium, what do you know how you're going to react to that?
Well, I don't think I'll be emotional, but I just want to make sure to Morehead State, to all the people there, they've been unbelievable supporters of mine. Even when we were down there losing week after week, I had professors and people on campus going, hey, man, hang in there. Just keep doing what you do. And I've been in touch with so many people, as I told you earlier, my friends, but all the faculty, athletic directors, whatever, everything, the coaches. Hopefully I can somehow sum it up to just tell them how important my 5 years. I was a 5-year guy because I got redshirted my rookie freshman year, but how much the school did for me. And I don't think it's an overstatement at all. If I didn't go there and get all that experience and throw the football and put up some numbers at times where in that day and age of college, people weren't throwing for 2,000 yards. I did that in 10 games my junior year, and it was like record setting. People are like, wow, now if you throw for 4,000, nobody blinks an eye. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of good memories, but just like being a pro, I think almost every day about some game. I go, oh my God, how did we lose that game? We were so much better, and it cost us going to the playoffs or whatever. But I think the same about Morehead State. I think about it constantly, and I'll talk about it with all my friends when I see them here in a few weeks. Why couldn't we win more games? And it bothers me a lot. And but they stuck with me and all that, and it worked out for me in the end. And I made a lot of great friends, and it's going to be special going down there for homecoming, and hopefully seeing a lot of people that I know. I think I will. And we'll have a great time and enjoy the moment.
Well, you've given a lot to them, too, and it's great that they're giving back to you. Phil, great to have you on. Thank you very much for responding to my text earlier today, and we appreciate it. Congratulations.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on for so long. You got to talk about some good memories and everything. It's really good. Great interview. I appreciate the questions, and you guys have a good time and good luck, and don't be afraid to call, because if you do, I'll probably pick it up and we'll get a little interview in when you need it.
That sounds great. We'll do that. You opened the door. Phil Simms, 2-time Super Bowl champion, named now on Morehead State Stadium, coming up October the 18th, their homecoming week. When we come back, John Talty, great reporter, covers college football. So the story behind Wisconsin-Miami, the tampering lawsuit, that's next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal. MRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35, where if your doctor has been talking to you, diagnosing maybe some sort of pain you have in your shoulder, your lower or upper back, maybe it's your knee, quad, whatever, they can find out what it is. Ideal MRI, state-of-the-art imaging machine. I've been in it myself because of a shoulder issue, torn rotator cuff, lower problems in my back, which have gotten so much better, and I've been in there, and they have been fantastic. Ideal MRI, if your doctor needs a better look, if they want a better look and they order an MRI, you tell them. You make sure you say, I want to go to Ideal MRI. State-of-the-art imaging machine will get the evidence you need or your doctor needs to take the next step of whatever makes you feel better. And $497 or less every single time. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners have built a great business. Take advantage of it if that comes. Hopefully you don't have anything that's hurting too much to do that, but if you do, it's idealmri.com.
In our logo and advertising, we say we are people that you can count on. What does that mean? It starts with providing a quality vehicle and quality service at a fair price. But it also means we do what we say we will do, and we treat people fairly with respect. It starts by hiring great people, good local folks who work hard with a caring attitude. Our employees are the real reason we are people that you can count on. Put us to the test and see for yourself that at Richard Carr Motors, we are people you can count on.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
To Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is 365 Sports. Check out the 365 Sports family of channels on YouTube.
Behind the Wisconsin versus Miami tampering lawsuit over transferred defensive back Xavier Lucas, that was months in the making. Here's John Talty, does an incredible job covering college football. He joins us on 365 Sports. So was the story, once you looked into it, what you thought it was going to be, or is there something much juicier to this?
Well, it's sort of been working on for a while. So I think there's been a lot of interest in this when it happened in January. And I think for me and others, it's, as I kind of got into the story, it's been just waiting period of, is it going to happen or is it not? Are they going to actually file a lawsuit as they ultimately ended up doing? What's going to be the scope of that lawsuit? And I think a key piece of it, and we know what they ended up doing, but I think a key piece was, are you going to actually sue another athlete as they could have done of Xavier Lucas? Are you going to sue the school? Are you going to sue a collective? There's all these different kind of moving pieces to it. They, of course, ultimately decided not to sue Lucas. They're focusing their attempts instead on Miami interfering, tampering with. We can get into more of that in a second. But I think what's interesting about this lawsuit in particular is, one, the people behind it. We've seen the Big Ten come out very strongly in favor of supporting Wisconsin as it goes down this path. And then the second piece is, beyond just the impact on Wisconsin, Miami, Xavier Lucas, is the broader impact of whether this could be a precedent-setting move, or whether it could have the possible ramifications that some people think it could.
Well, one of the ramifications would be, I mean, this seems to me, John, and I'm just a humble sports podcaster and not a lawyer, but when you sue someone for breach of contract or someone for breaching someone's contract, that is done in the real world when employees do that. And the legal tightrope that Wisconsin will have to walk with everyone watching of not calling Xavier Lucas an employee is very interesting to me.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that people have kind of locked in on, because to your point, it is, a tightrope to try to figure that part out. I mean, I think clearly people at Wisconsin, and also people that I talked to within the Big Ten, believe that it's capable, obviously, or they wouldn't be pursuing this case. They think it's essentially, that not every contract that is enforceable should have to be related to employment, and that, you can sign a contract in all kinds of different ways, and that it should still be binding and enforceable in that way. But I think that there are a couple components within the lawsuit itself that, again, I'm not a lawyer, haven't even played one on TV, but from my read on it and talking to people on it, there are some people that do think that some of the wording in the law in relation to that his deal, basically is, portends to him being at Wisconsin, not going to other schools, that there's ties to that, to basically being an employee. We know that the language in the actual contract itself very much is about NIL rights, marketing rights, not about pay for play, not employment. But we'll see, if the courts feel the same way. I think it was smart that they filed in Wisconsin. Surely Miami will not want to have this play out on Wisconsin's home court territory. We could see this potentially, moved or kind of moving up in terms of a different legal system. That will be interesting to see how that plays out. But, as it stands right now, they think that they have a contract. I think it was interfered with, and they want that, proven.
John, is there any significance, or I guess what is the level of significance to see the Big Ten publicly backing Wisconsin and doing this as well?
I think it's very significant. And I think that it shows that the Big Ten, is lending its support. And I think it wants to see this happen because, a key component of this deal is that most of the Big Ten, if not all of the Big Ten schools, are using basically a Big Ten templated revenue share agreement. There's some SEC schools that have kind of an SEC version. ACC schools are kind of doing their own thing, but the Big Ten, by and large, are using this format. And if it's not worth this weight, I guess, in paper, then it could impact the rest of the conference. And so I think that they view this as a important moment for Wisconsin to try to defend not only itself, and it being, of course, very upset they lost what they think is a key piece of their future roster to Miami and that was tampered with, but also to defend the value of this contract for all the other Big Ten schools. That's why I think that they would like to see this play out, why they've made what I think are kind of rare public statements supporting not only, when it initially happened, supporting Wisconsin, but now supporting them filing a lawsuit. You don't see that happen very often. I can't at least think of moments where one school suing another Power 4 school was publicly endorsed by its conference. I think it speaks to what they think is the importance of this case and, them defending the legality and value of this, revenue share agreement that the Big Ten created and most of its schools are using.
We have followed, we've had Darren Heitner on this show, John, at least once or twice, and he's the guy that represents Lucas, I believe, and said that Wisconsin was smart not to sue his client. And you contacted him. Was his answer, this is false and declined comment? He has been, without question, on social media, when we've talked to him, a pro-athlete side of things. He's fought for many of them. Sure. What was your reaction when he did not comment? Was that a surprise to you?
A little bit. It's interesting as I reached out to him when it initially broke, and like Darren, I've interviewed Darren numerous times. I like to think that I have a good relationship with him. Like, we're not best friends, but we have, I think, good working relationship. I reached out to him, told him I was working on a story. Here's what I was trying to do, and at that time he declined to comment altogether for the story. He said, "Hey, my client Xavier Lucas isn't even mentioned by name, in the lawsuit, so I'm not going to comment." And then I circled back with him the next day. I think it was on 3. Somebody had something related to that. Darren thought there, that specific allegation that a prominent Miami alumnus and Miami coach met with Xavier in his home, that it was false. I reached out to him and he said, yeah, this is false. That's the only comments I want to make on it. I don't want to touch anything else, which, I respect. He's a lawyer. There's probably some legal reasons why he doesn't want to do that. But it is interesting in general that, Darren, I think, is pretty outspoken. He is very active on social media, and he was certainly very active on the front end of this. In January, February, like, I'm going to do an antitrust lawsuit. If they even try to do this, I'm suing for these different reasons. But Darren's a smart guy. I'm sure he's cooking up something. I don't know exactly what that is, but I'm sure, there's something that they're going to do. And I think it's interesting, to the best of my knowledge, and I reached out to them as well, I don't think Miami has really publicly commented on it either. So I think that's also been interesting. We'll see, what Miami's response is. They might be filing in a Florida court their own kind of response, trying to move it, the case there. We'll see kind of what those next steps are.
John, but it was notable that Miami ultimately did decide to not sue Lucas, right? I mean, that's the big step, I guess, we're waiting to take, is the actual, and I think that's what Heitner was kind of threatening, of like, I dare you, but it didn't seem like he thought they would go to that extreme of suing the athlete, because that opens up a Pandora's box, doesn't it? And that's kind of the calculation of how far to go with this thing. I think if you were Wisconsin in the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I from talking to people involved, that was a consideration. And I think, talk to someone directly involved in it. And I think it's one of those situations where it'll be interesting to see when and if that changes. And just, it's a little bit inside baseball stuff here, but I can think to, I covered recruiting for a really long time, and it was always about, you never really wanted to spoil a kid's commitment, right? If a kid had a commitment announcement done, you wanted that kid to be able to do it himself. You didn't want to spoil it. But I think that's changing now, because now that kid might be getting $1 million contract, and it suddenly becomes more of a financial decision and a business decision and a free agency type move, the way we might cover the NBA or NFL, than maybe just a high school commitment. And so I think we've seen some shifting of, all right, that's off limits and now it's fair game. And I think some of that's starting to happen right now with this as well, where, typically these are college kids. They were treated as college kids. You gave them a lot of leeway and a lot of grace, and you tried to treat them differently than the professional athletes because they hadn't made it to that level yet. But I think the money has changed that a little bit. And I think that's why you're seeing Arkansas is one example where they're going after a player for, essentially violating his collective contract. It's starting to pop up a little bit. And I think what you'll see is if people are not, abiding by their contracts, I think that you'll see more of a willingness to try to hold them legally accountable, even if they are 18, 19, 20, just because the money has gotten so big. Right now we've seen half measures. I think this is kind of a half measure in which, they're essentially suing about Xavier Lucas. They're not suing him directly, but I wouldn't be surprised if a situation like this arose in the future, whether a school might be more direct in going after that player just because of the amount of money that's at stake and the feeling that this is not amateur sport anymore, that it's become more professionalized and that it should come with some of the accompanying responsibilities that come with that.
I had a coach I sent a 2 or 3 coaches, football coaches, text that night going, what will this mean? And one of them said to me, everything will swing on this if it works. As far as if Wisconsin wins the lawsuit. Did anyone tell you that, or have you heard that from feedback from others?
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge. I think it could go either way, right? It could swing a positive way. It could swing a negative way. I think that there's serious risk here, and we've hit on a couple of them, and I mentioned them in the story. But the employment thing. There's some people who think that this opens the door even more for some of the employment-related issues that have continued to pop up. I think that clearly tampering is at the crux of a lot of this argument. A judge could rule that doesn't matter, that it might be against NCAA rules, but that essentially it's not, a big deal, or that what they did does not constitute tampering. So that could have an impact on things. And then, the biggest, I think, thing right now is with the transfer portal, that coaches badly want control right now. We know that, I've written about plenty of them, Kirby Smart and others, who want to limit the transfer portal windows, try to have more control. They want contracts to be able to hold guys multiple years. They want to have some idea as to what their roster is going to look like beyond tomorrow. I think that should Wisconsin lose this case, I think it throws that even more up in the air of guys in this specific situation. Xavier Lucas was never in the transfer portal. Now, as Darren Heitner and others would point out, it's because Wisconsin never entered him, which is against NCAA rules. So that's a separate issue. But in theory, you could withdraw from a school, enroll in another school, and never have entered in the transfer portal whatsoever. And if that is allowed and that's fair game, I mean, that just makes everything, free agency. There's no transfer portal. There's no need to do it if that door is wide open, has been ruled that it's okay. So there's a lot at stake here. And I think it's why people view it as such an important case. One, just because it's the first time we're seeing it happen, but two, just, I think so many people are hoping for stability within college sports, and that revenue share agreements, the House settlement, that all this can bring some level of stability. But if Wisconsin loses and all the different things that they're asking for, I think it opens the door back up. Well, what are these contracts worth? It seems like they'd be worth nothing if they're not able to be enforced in any way.
How much do you think this will shape how they develop enforcement for this in the future, if they can?
I think that, one of the big questions is, what involvement does the CSC have with cases like this? It seems like one of my colleagues, Brandon Marcello, reached out to them, asking if they had any comment about this case, and they did not. And it's interesting, and I truly don't know the answer to this, so I'm just kind of, spitballing here, but this situation obviously happened before the official creation, right, of the College Sports Commission, but it's dated to begin July 1, which is when rev share payments are allowed to be doled out, and that is under College Sports Commission's purview. So I'm very interested to see whether they want to get involved. I mean, this is such a hot button issue, and as I think potentially to be a landmark legal case that I think if you're the CSC, you don't necessarily want to wade into such a hot topic right off the bat. You might there's already so much criticism before this thing has even gotten going. Like, you'd probably prefer to not wade into maybe the biggest question mark on this thing yet. But in theory, moving forward, there's rev share related issues in terms of contracts. It's going to go through this new enforcement arm, and specifically the CEO of it and his team will be weighing in on these issues, which will, I think, potentially lend some more stability to the situation, knowing that they'll be able to make decisions quickly, in theory, and more efficiently than what we've seen from the NCAA.
Has Lucas been quoted in any way?
I don't think so. I don't think he's weighed in on it. I'm sure probably at advice of legal counsel, and that's it's probably one of the benefits of hiring somebody like Darren, right? He's a well-known lawyer. He's friendly with a lot of different reporters, very willing to be media out and about. So I think Darren's been outspoken about it. To the best of my knowledge, I haven't seen Xavier talk about it. It'll be interesting. He's expected to be a prominent part of a Miami team that's probably going to be pretty good. And it'll be interesting to see whether they make him available. Again, my colleague Brandon Marcello went down to Miami a couple months ago to try to talk to Carson Beck. Carson Beck hasn't talked since he's been to Miami. So I think Miami's shielding some of their guys right now. But if they're winning and Xavier Lucas has a game-winning interception, presumably he'll have to be available to the media, and that might open up some of these questions.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. If, in fact, Wisconsin, John, thanks for your time and a great article.
Appreciate
great
it.
job on this. If, in fact, Wisconsin wins, does Lucas become ineligible, or is the lawsuit against Miami not the player, as we discussed, and so it would not affect him either way?
Oh, he left.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I wonder what the answer would be to that. Thank you. I appreciate.
I don't think he'd
John
be
Talty.
ineligible necessarily, because it's not the courts that would.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe do that because he's not named in the lawsuit. It would just be Miami's got to pay something up, and then the new CSC figures it out later.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Appreciate Eli Hoff with the investigation on the, it sounds like a negative thing, but the NIL and what Missouri's done. John Talty from 247 and CBS Sports 2 for being a part of the show. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top five, and Andrew Valade has put up a couple of different polls and his thoughts and our results. Who voted for this or that? That's next. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for all of your automotive needs and have been for over a couple decades now in the Central Texas area. The people that you can count on for new cars, pre-owned cars, whatever it is you're looking to get done as far as body work or maintenance, they can do all that for you as well right now over at Richard Carr, and do so with some savings. They are celebrating red, white, and blue savings event going on right now over at Richard Carr. That includes $750 on a new 2025 Buick Envista, named the 2024 Car and Driver's Editor's Choice. That includes nearly $9,000 off 2025 GMC Sierra 1500 SLE and SLT models in stock for qualified buyers. It also includes the new electric vehicle, the Cadillac Lyriq, which you can test drive right now, 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds, a single charge distance of over 300 miles. Those are just some of the offerings they have right now over at Richard Carr. If you're looking for a pre-owned vehicle, not any of the new offerings, well, they've got a lot full of cars and trucks over at the red, white, and blue sales tag event right now that are priced down and ready to move for your upcoming summer travel. And also, they are not only pre-owned, but pre-inspected. A 172-point inspection and 100% credit approval is always their goal. Locally owned, locally run, lots of options for you and lots of money to be saved right now. Celebrating 26 years in business in Waco and Central Texas. Go see the people you can count on at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac.
by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help. Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com. That's CLEAN email.com. Founded in 1910, Samsonite is the world leader in durable, high-quality luggage and travel accessories. Made to the highest standards, our products won't let you down. We give you the confidence to get out there and explore. Inspired by the past, devoted to the present, and built to inspire a multi-generational future, Samsonite is here to elevate your journey. Travel with Samsonite and pack confidence every step of the way. Shop now at shop.samsonite.com. Samsonite.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you as always by our good friends at Flag and Anthem. Go to flagandanthem.com, use our promo code 365sports at checkout. We keep on through our Big 12 Newcomers Series, the Buffs edition. Let's talk about Coach Prime and his team and what they've brought in for this season. At number 5, safety Terrence Love. Got to get better on defense, and they were better on defense last year. They bring in Terrence Love from Auburn to parole the back end of the secondary and lay some lumber. Good hitter, good tackler, good in coverage from what the scouting reports say. Number 4, Coach Prime ain't hard to find, but offensive linemen are. Look, lost his first team all Big 12 freshman center in the portal. So they went and got center Zarian McGill from Louisiana Tech. Really good player, really accomplished at Louisiana Tech, now comes over to the Buffs with big shoes to fill. Also on the offensive line, big body, Xavier Hill from Memphis. Many services, including On3, who I got all these rankings from for these particular top 5s, ranked him as the best transfer in their class. They're going to need him, but if they have Jordan Seaton on one side, Xavier Hill on the other, and some better players in the middle of that offensive line, they just might be able to have some kind of discernible running game, which they're going to need very badly because they lost a lot of receivers, and including a Heisman Trophy winner and a very good quarterback in Shadur Sanders. Number 2, wide receiver Hakeem Williams comes in from FSU. Mike Norvell's only 5-star recruit in his time at FSU. 2 years, not really much happened. Granted, his freshman year, he was blocked by players like Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, and others. Then last year, because of the disaster along the offensive line and at quarterback, nobody really knows how good the wide receivers were because nobody could get him the damn ball. Well, we'll see if Caden Salter, who's coming up here in a second just to tease that, can get the most out of Hakeem Williams. And they can get the most out of Hakeem Williams in Colorado, but it is troubling, if I'm Colorado, to see Hakeem Williams leave after the spring when he was beaten out by receivers like Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson, who came into FSU. So we'll see, but he has tons of potential. He's one heck of an athlete, big body, runs well, should really fit the scheme well for the Buffs. And number 1, I just mentioned him, quarterback Caden Salter comes in from Liberty. They've got Juju Lewis, who is their 5-star recruit. He will probably play a little bit, you would think, but Caden Salter's won a ton of games in college at Liberty. But
he will never face a schedule like he has this season. And this is what the season hinges on, is the quarterback position for the Buffs. They had Shadur Sanders. He was Mr. Steady Eddie, Mr. Reliable, very tough, took a lot of hits. I mean, he did a lot of things for that program. There's a reason they retired his number, not just because he's Deion's kid. He did a lot in that offense, so much so that it allowed people to maybe nitpick a little bit more about some of the skills that allowed him to drop in the draft. Caden Salter's done really well, but he is going to need way more of a running game than Shadur Sanders had. But his ability to adapt and step into this offense is the key to the Buffalo season. That's going to do it for this top 5. Smokey, read some polls.
All right, we will do that because every day Andrew Valade puts up a couple of different polls, timely, and about a lot of topics that we discuss here on 365 Sports. Are the Thunder the NBA's next dynasty? This is split up pretty well. Nothing really too far above the others. A team on the rise, building toward it.
Another team will rise.
Another team will rise, building toward it. Too soon to say. And then dynasty, Emery's vote counted more often than others at 17%.
You told me when I walked in today that they're never going to lose another NBA title ever.
Well, they can't lose the one they have.
No.
Unless maybe they did some sign stealing like the Astros, who didn't get to lose that one. Craig, anything? What are your thoughts? I think it's a building toward it, but I don't know. Dynasty, that's a little early.
I think it's too early for anybody to know, but this is just people's opinions. So I can see where you might believe that a dynasty's getting underway. I think they're certainly building toward it. That's an obvious option. But yeah, I mean, I think all of this is correct. I mean, really, I think except for the dynasty is happening, to say that with any certainty. But with Oklahoma City being as young as they are, as well run as they are, as well stocked as they are with draft picks, there's no reason why they should be going anywhere anytime soon with the nucleus they have. So I think this very well could be the start of it. But yeah, I mean, the Lakers and the Celtics and the typical big names will make some moves that make them interesting. And then there will be underneath teams that are good in their own right, like an Indiana Pacers that found themselves just minutes away from, a title or a game away from a title. So yeah, if I had to choose, though, I guess I'd say building toward it, I think, is where I would go.
Well, they have one. You got to have one to start any kind of multiple 2 or 3 or 3 out of 4. So
the ingredients are there for them to
Absolutely.
do it. I mean, in their own kitchen, but they also can't control what happens outside of their own kitchen. So that's the wild card. But they should be very good for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
My kitchen still smells like a bone-in ribeye on a cast iron skillet that was also cooked in the oven. I can't get rid of the smell. It was delicious, by the way.
Well, it was worth it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was very, very tasty. Number 2 poll. Will the CBS deal boost the Pac-12's profile? A large amount, over a third. Yes, big boost. No, won't help. Depends on the teams. Only one other team can be added, I guess, Texas State, unless there's even further addition, and only if they win.
Well, they have to add another team. They have to.
Yep.
But there's no cap. There's no we're at 8, so we're done now. I mean, they could very well go and add 2, 4, 6, however many they want to. I guess that'll depend on the candidates and also the money ultimately. But, I mean, they have to add a bare minimum of 1, and the expectation sure seems to be just like that won't be where they stop ultimately. But I don't know how quickly the rest of that comes into play. I think it boosts them in that it answers a really big question that was out there. I mean, granted, you're sleeping in the same bed you were already to some degree, but as far as this new incarnation of the Pac and where you could find them most often, I think to be with the CBS is a really good thing. And again, the biggest question mark from that release today, or the articles talking about it, was the lack of details about the actual money. Now, that's the part that I'm most interested in. But I think from an exposure standpoint, it's a nice little boost. I don't think it's a big deal in the long run that changes the perception all that greatly. But it helps a little bit.
I think we'll find out about the money when they figure out who the other partners are.
Yeah.
If CW or Turner buys
I would think CW's for sure, but they also have the ACC as well, right?
That way they can sit, I think they're just waiting so they can come out and say the whole package is $11 million, and
right.
we get $6 million from CBS and $3 million from here and $2 million from here or whatever. I think it certainly helps them, a little bit. I don't think it's going to be a big boost. But again, you've got to have good games. I mean, that's the thing is you've got to have good games. But I think it does help them in the fact that CBS and Paramount is pretty easy to find, which I think that they had some incantations of the earlier media thing that outside of Apple TV might have been a little challenging.
Let's call this what it is. It's not a bunch of games on main CBS.
No.
It's a lot of games on CBS Sportsnet, which again, I don't even have that. And games on Paramount Plus, which, hey, the Big 12's got ESPN Plus and the SEC's got ESPN Plus, and everybody's got their version of it. I'd say, like, if this was a yes or no question, I'd say no. But of the options, I think winning's going to really be the thing that brings a focus to that league. And even then, they've got a mighty uphill battle. I mean, I think they've got a big uphill battle. And if they just remain realistic and don't get caught up on, well, we're a power conference, right? Or we're going to get back to that. If they don't get caught up on that and they just try to be the best damn league they can be, I think that would go a long way.
I agree. I agree. But good for them. One away with Texas State, most likely that one away. And they at least have some sort of clarity when it comes to what they're getting and who they're on, what networks. I tell you what, with the YouTube TV, there are times I don't even know that I have things, but I'm not sure if I have subscriptions to them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times I just have to find out. Nope, I don't.
You figure out when you hit it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so.
you do. Aren't you proud of me, though, that I went down this road? It's a big deal.
I'm very proud of you.
I still don't understand why my TV at 1 o'clock in the morning just pops on because the boogeyman's in the apartment.
I'm very excited. You were the first domino to fall. My in-laws, they are upping the technology factor, and they're worse than you. They are.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, man. This is the time of year that really makes you question having cable because there is not a damn thing on television worth its salt.
I told Garrett, couldn't get me one more night of College World Series.
I mean, that's why I was hoping they would last a little longer. But yeah, now it's all MLB, and I guess whatever else of the other seasonings that you have out there, WNBA, I guess for some people who are on the Caitlin Clark train. But I mean, for me at least, I'll watch Rangers here and there, but it's barren now that all these other sports are over with.
But for Major League Baseball, it's hard. It's even with their package.
How many games, Craig, have you watched the Rangers?
Very few.
I bet I've watched 5.
I've only seen 8 Red Sox games.
And of course, the way they started, I watched most of them early.
I'm not paying $100 for a year for this team.
I was like, now I got to pay for regular season MLB games. Yeah. Get out of here, man. At some point, I got to say no to something.
Yeah. I have ESPN Plus and I have Netflix, and I like watching Netflix. All right, thank you, Emery Winter. He's working on 365 Sports tonight, 10:30 on the CW. Andrew Valet with the polls. Thank you, Andrew. And he'll be shoving, pushing, and screaming a lot of our content out on social media, different ways. And Garrett Ross runs the mothership. Go Tigers. Go Thunder. Thunder up. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, our great sponsors, and you who watch, thank you. Good night, 365 Sports.